the examination. And in this 15,000,
sorry, honorable member, are you making a reference to a document?
Yes, indeed.
Please note that as in line with the standing orders, you may want to infer alongside the function of the speaker to make such references on the House.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I really appreciate it. I'm not looking at any documents. I'm making from what I've learned, but not looking at any document.
Okay, honorable member, you may.
Thank you very much. That's what the standing order says. Thank you. 15,630 students sat for the WASP examination from 136 schools. And what do we have from the outcome of this? We have almost 2,000 that were able to pass from 5 credit to 9 credit out of 15,630 students that sat for the WASP examination.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes, honorable.
Point of order.
Honorable member, you may resume your seat whilst the point of order is being considered.
On the order of 32, section, standing order 32, debate and motion. Motions need to be moved and then seconded. So is the honorable member moving a motion or he is trying to deliver? If he is moving a motion, the motion should be seconded before deliberation start.
Thank you, honorable member, for lower Badibu. Of course, in line with clause 32 on the standing order, the honorable member for Serekunda, you might have to wait for such motion to be seconded before you can proceed with your submission. Any seconder of the motion?
Yes.
Yes, honorable member for Williams.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to second the motion that there should be need for the reassessment of the national education policies and curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable member. I therefore put it in question. It has been moved and seconded that this honorable parliament do consider the resolution on the need for the reassessment of the national education policies and curriculums. If you are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
If not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Therefore, honorable members, at this juncture, I would now want to open the floor for the debates. Any honorable member who might want to contribute to the debate
Honorable Speaker.
can do so by raising their tax. Honorable, would you allow me to finish?
Okay.
Can do so by raising their tax to be called upon. Honorable members, may I also remind this August Assembly that as per clause 16 and 24 of the standing orders, each submission must be done in a manner that it would not disrupt the businesses and harmony of this August Parliament. Yes, honorable nominated member, you wanted to make an observation.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think there is need for the reassessment of the national education policy and the curriculum. By looking at the educational system of the Gambia or educational setting, for me it is not inclusive and it is not accessible for mostly young people with disability in this country.
Honorable nominated member, are you making a submission in regard to this debate?
Yes, I'm making submission.
You might want to allow honorable member for Serekunda to finish his submission and then you will call upon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable member for Serekunda, you might resume your submission.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I am honored that you have given me the gratitude to move on with this submission. As I was saying, it is very important for us to reassess our educational policy and curriculum because we cannot have almost 15,360 students to sit for WASP examination and end up having 2,000 people or students having 5 credit upwards. That is an insult to the educational standard of our country. Then it simply means, what this is telling us that our educational policy is really not being implemented properly. It also means that our educational policy and curriculum is not reflected on our current situation in this country. So it is important for us to reassess it and look at it properly so that it can what? It can match with the realities of our society. Because looking at also the educational policy and curriculum, you would also come to understand that it includes the content that we also used in our schools. Are these content being taught in our schools reflecting our reality as a nation? It's a question that we must also look at. Is also our educational policy and curriculum, in a sense, being inclusive? Because when you look at the report or the country document of UN with our government, you will understand that it is also telling us.
Honorable Member, I have informed you that if you want to make reference to a document, please do seek the permission of the Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I do understand that. That also applied in the standing order that if I am making reference to a document that I want to open and check or a mobile phone. In this case, I am not making any reference from a document or a mobile phone.
Honorable Member, are you sure you're not looking at a document?
No, not really. I am not looking at any document.
Okay. You might proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. This is very important for us to look at it because it includes the content that we are using in our educational system. Is it reflecting our reality? Is it something that is going to prepare the students or the youths of this country to be able to take the mantle of leadership in the different sectors of our institutions so that it can, pile up and traject our country's development to where we are anticipating it? So these are also things that we have to look at. Now, when you come to the side of the inclusiveness, when you go to Section 30 of the National Constitution, you would understand that it also talks about the inclusiveness of the, of people into the educational system. Now, when you talk about inclusion as well, we have to also look at the disability people. What is the ministry, 𝒂𝒊𝒏, doing when it comes to the inclusion policy? That the disabilities, are they given the opportunity to be able to also have access properly to our educational system? Our schools having brains and proper tools that can accommodate our disability people? These are also things that we have to look at. Another question that we have to also look at in reassessment.
Honorable Member, please, when addressing that category, please use persons with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Honorable. In going forward as well, we have to also look at, is it that our educational policy, the content that we are having is the reality of our nation? It's also something that we have to look at. Now, moving forward, is it that our vocational schools that we have here are equipped? Are they also, accessible? Because today, if you go to GTTI and you want to do a course or an architectural course, you have to pay $20,460 to do a diploma course for 2 years. Now, there a question comes into existence. How much are we receiving when it comes to our salary pay scale in this country? Can families able to take their children to these vocational schools to go and learn? What are our governments doing in order to give the opportunity to the youth so that they can also have vocational trainings, to have skills? Because, honorable members, I want to remind you today, even the institution that we are right now sitting, was not built by Gambians. Do we want to live like this? Don't we want to train qualified young personnel of our country to become specialists and experts in these fields? To have engineers? To have architects? So that our institutions would be able to have the manpower and the labor force to be able to execute certain things that we want to do towards the development of this country. Today, we have 183 licensed vocational schools. But even today, if you have a problem in plumbing, you cannot have anyone that you can call to come and solve that particular problem. Sometimes the only people that you find there are people that have not even undergone, this training from institutions or schools. Some people are just naturally gifted and claim that they can do certain things. So these are also things that we have to look at when we are reassessing our educational policy and curriculum. Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to remind our honorable members that it is important for us to look at the educational policy and curriculum. Because if we do not do that, if we do not look at our educational system and policies, our country will never achieve the development that it anticipates. So in that regard, Honorable Speaker, I would love to surrender my submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Serekunda. Honorable Nominated Member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to to talk about this particular issue that I believe there is need to basically check into the educational policy and also the curriculum of the Gambia educational system. Honorable Speaker, just to assure you that there is countless young people with disability in this country that has the rights, like any other young person in this country, to have basic education, either formal or informal, either technical, vocational, educational system in this country. But you will agree with me that, Honorable Speaker, the educational system of this nation, it's very sad in a sense that there is no inclusivity and there's no accessibility in terms of getting access to educational materials and getting access to institutions or educational institutions in this country for young people with disabilities. Just to make a reference to some of, just to give you a classical example to some of the issues affecting young people with disability in this country educationally. Normally in the Gambia, to test young people's intellectual ability in terms of education is based on examination, performances. But it is so sad that in the Gambia, that young people with disability, even though they are intellectually capable to perform certain functions, to be in public offices, to mount certain positions in this country, because of the setting of examination, question systems that we have in the Gambia, it's not possible for them. You will agree with me that there are certain subject matters in our schools that have been taught. For example, maths, general science, agriculture. These are subject matters that also included practical aspect. Could you imagine someone that is living with a visual impairment and you expect this person to write examinations on the agricultural practical, and there is no teacher trained in this country. There's no specific personnel in this country that has been trained to take care of such students in tertiary or primary or secondary education system in terms of exams. This leads to high rate of examination failure in a disability community. So these are some of the things that I believe the educational system and educational setting needs to be looked at and to make sure they improve on the side. And as well, we know that it is very, very difficult in this country for people with disability in this country to gain that quality of knowledge, quality of education that they need, because the system is not set for us. The education system in this country is not set, is not ready to accumulate, or is not ready to, accommodate young people with disability in this country, because there is no, flexibility in setting the policies that are in place, Honorable Speaker. Just to give you a reference, Honorable Speaker, with your permission, I want to give you a reference from the Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. That is from the 1997 Constitution of the Republic of the Gambia. Section 30 stated that, or stipulated that all persons in the country has the equal rights and opportunity to benefit from educational services and educational opportunities available. But you can understand that young people with disability in this country find it very challenging to even get tertiary education in this country. It is very, very difficult for them to get a tertiary education in this country. Could you imagine if it is a mandate in the Constitution that before you get the chance to be the president or before you get the chance to be a minister of this nation, you need to get a bachelor degree? Do you think young people with disability will be able to get that opportunity to be in that office if the educational system is not flexible for them? want to rest my case, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable nominated member. Any other honorable? Yes, Honorable member for Combo South, you might debate.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I am Omar A. Manjang, the Honorable Member for Combo South. Allow me to quote from Nelson Mandela, who says that education is the most important, powerful weapon that can change the world. So therefore, to align this to the current situations of the Gambia, I want to align myself with the honorable members for us that there is supposed to be a need for the government to reassess our educational policies. In this case, as a veteran teacher, it's very important for us to revisit ourselves and see what is the reality. Did our educational system commensurate with what is available in the Gambia? So these are some of the things that we definitely have to go to the drawing board and then address this for us to enhance economic development that will include all and sundry. Therefore, it's going to be very much important that TVET education has to be inculcated in our curriculum to ensure that those who could not get A1s in other subjects, at least they can practicalize the skills that they have in order to enhance economic development of the Gambia. So in this case, currently if you look at our educational system, it's informative based in a sense that you are exposed to agriculture. You'll be asked, what is agriculture? It's the studying or the rearing of animals for the man use. What is the knowledge base behind, the skill base behind to practicalize that in order to enhance food security in the Gambia? What is cell? Cell is the basic life of basic unit of life. What do you do to apply that? So you realize that our students are full of information. At the end of the day, when they are exposed to the real society, they find it difficult to deliver. It's very important for us to look at that, and then therefore, that institutions has to be supported to be given the right tools for them to mold these young people to make difference in the country. I can't take it. I find it difficult to understand. After spending 4 years in the Gambia College, studying agriculture, exposed to poultry, exposed to horticulture, exposed to different facets of life, at the end of the day, you come back and say, there's no job in this country. Honorable members, is that fair? So it's very important that what we are giving to the students, and these institutions have to be equipped. Equally, we definitely have to understand that the educational policies has to have an open door policy that will include all and sundry. Honorable Speaker, if you observe, there are a marginalized set of people. That is the religious studies section, more especially Arabic school students. You realize that if you look at their curriculum, they will study for almost 12 years, and there is no any other single subject that will expose them to any practical area, which is so sad. At the end of the day, they will graduate, and few of them will make it to Gambia College. Only few will make it to the abroad for studies, and the rest of them have to come back to the society, and then the burden continues. Is that fair? So definitely there is a need to include the members or the set of Islamic studies so that at least we align their curriculum to the current realities of the Gambia. Otherwise, we'll take a step forward and then 2 steps back. And you realize that that is incompatible with real development. Honorable Speaker, it's very important for us to consider ITC. ITC is very important. I will take a reference to the time when COVID has pushed the Gambia. At the end of the day, schools have to close for safety. But within that duration, what are some of the menace? You realize that there are so many problems that were caused, so to say. Among them is the gender violence has increased. At the end of the day, some students do not have the appetite to go back to school. But with the help of ITC, we can have distance learning. You realize that initially, when it happens, the University of the Gambia introduced distant learning. People complain, access to the internet and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we have to move. That is the reality. Human beings, we are liable to adopt systems. Global warming is not leaving everybody. We have to align ourselves with the current realities of this nation. As things are going, we definitely have to have these subjects like ITC. People have to be exposed to this and let them have these skills. In case of any unforeseen circumstances, we can still continue without coming together physically. So these are very much important things that has to be considered. Equally again, discipline in school is very important. We cannot talk of let's reassess the educational policies without looking into the disciplinary actions. In those days, if you meet with your teacher in the community, you even have to run away, most especially at night. But today, when you meet your teachers, you have to call him, Mr. Speaker, is your student, Mr. Manja, and stuff like that. So I think the disciplinary part has to be reinforced in this educational policy assessment. In case, because you cannot indoctrinate students who are full of other things that if you introduce them to the society, we will receive more problems than any other things. So it's very important that the government put measures to ensure that teachers at least have that right to discipline the students as well as the parents equally join together to ensure that we have well-disciplined students in our school system. Equally, the standard also should not be entertained, in a sense that if we want to ensure that we want to have young parliamentarians who are fit enough to represent their constituencies, it's very important that we consider standard. And with this standard, I believe, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, is sometimes discriminatory. How many young Gambians are limited to get admission to University of the Gambia because they didn't have math? Honorable members, is that fair? This is impossible. You realize that we cannot go along in the same directions. Others are good in other technical areas. Others are good in other areas. So therefore, we should have these open policies that will accommodate some of these things. If you are good in maths, pursue the career that is related to mathematics. If you are good in science, pursue areas that are related to science areas. But you realize that with the availability of scholarship, the government of the Gambia is still advocating for science education. Where are the others who will go back and write about the history of President Jawara? Where are other people who will go and then do more about agriculture? So it's very important for us to look at the standard. Equally, it's also important to look at it at an open view to give chance to other people. And then my last submission is the providers of such knowledge, the transformers, that is the teachers and the policy makers. It's unfortunate that some of these policy makers, they don't even send their children to the public schools. And yet still, you are sitting down there managing, regulating the policies. You realize that that is unfair. If we want to call for inclusiveness, definitely we have to join together, trust the system, send in your kids, and then let us all go together. But we've seen some political changes that happens. We have people who were with the children from the political houses. Immediately, things change. We saw them taking their kids from public schools and then sending them to private schools, expensive one for that matter. So if those people stand here telling us that there is an access to education, there is a quality education, Mr. Speaker or Honorable Speaker, should we accept that? These are some of the things. We have to be ready and face the reality. Nobody will make this country great. It's us who will make this country great. Therefore, I submit I want to take my seat and submit my report.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒂𝒏. Please, Honorable Members, may I ask that during your submission, you keep it within 3 to 5 minutes. This is to ensure that we're able to briefly go ahead with the order of the day and give every opportunity to every parliamentarian here present to make a submission on the various subject matters. Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Birkama North, you might make your submission.
Assalamu alaikum, Honorable Speaker and the Honorable Members. I think quality education is never attained if there is no quality environment. And a lot of people, most of the times, when they talk about education, we focus on what is happening now. To me, that is where the problem lies. Just like Mandinkas would say, ni takite boita, iboita da men kana jibe, komo jibe. Where has all of this started? That is the question. We should ask ourselves. So if we are able to answer this, then we can continue with the rest. If you look around the world, you look at the educational level, all around the world, you would understand that the nations that have the most of education have also received the most quality and sophisticated materials that have to do with education. We will never be able to go out of our arms to achieve quality education if we are not sophisticated educationally. I have been taught, and I believe most of us have been taught, amoeba, for example. You are taught about viruses, you are taught about bacterium. But how many of us have seen this? From the senior school, for example, up to this stage, I've never seen amoeba. I've never seen any of them. People have studied microbacteria at the university level in the Gambia, parasitology. But ask them, have they ever seen parasite with their eyes? How would you be able to tackle a problem? How would you be able to fight against something that you've never seen, the nature of which you only know in books? How would you be able to? Are you even sure that you would be able to identify these organisms when you interact with them, apart from seeing them in the books? Would you be able to identify them in case somebody was to bring it to you and ask you what this is? You can name all parts. I can tell you about the pseudopodia, the contractile vacuole. I can tell you about the functions, but just like the Honorable said, we cannot resolve our problems if the practicality of the education is not available, and that is not also possible if the sophistication is not worked on. So, Honorable Speaker, I would also talk about features, because when failure happens, a lot of angles are touched. You have people that will be talking about teachers, you also have people that will be talking about students and the environment. Now we would understand, if you go to our schools, we can all do that assignment here. You go from here, go to any school. Enter into any class, ask the students, how many of you want to be teachers in the future? You will see no hand. But do you ever stop to ask yourself, why do we have hundreds, thousands of teachers in the Gambia College every year? This can only tell you that we have people in our institutions, not because they love to be there, but because the conditions have put them there. So what are these conditions? I cannot be sitting at home, you ask me to be independent. I have no money. I have to be dependent on my brother, my father, my mother. And how do I do this? I have to have earnings at the end of every month, or however it is done. But if you are sitting at home, you understand that being a teacher is the only solution. You would have to go to the Gambia College, even if that is not your area. When you interact with the people that are studying in the Gambia College, they will tell you that I am with people who I know cannot teach, cannot do anything. These people within themselves know I cannot teach, I'm not a teacher. Maybe if I am in the field of engineering, I will perform better. But they are in the teaching field, passing the wrong information or passing no information at all because they are caged, because they have to survive. This is the reality that we are living with. And Honorable Speaker, let us also ask ourselves about the basic necessities that the schools should have. For example, how many schools would you go to, especially in the provincial Gambia? You find facilities like FANA. These are important. You cannot put people in a class like 17 sitting in that environment that is not conducive at all, perspiring, sweating, and you expect them to concentrate. It's not possible, because I take example by myself. When I am hot inside, I cannot sleep. I feel very uncomfortable. And perhaps you have people whose conditions are far worse. How would they be able to accommodate themselves in those environments? Honorable Speaker, how many students have been finding it very difficult to travel from their destination to find a better education? For example, most people in West Coast, people would say, okay, West Coast has very brilliant students, but most of their students would come to this end, for example, in the KM or in Banjul, to find a better education. Some will come to Nusrat, some will come to Gambia High, some will go to, other schools. Why are they coming? That is one question. Why are they coming? You cannot say, okay, you have to stay here. This is where you are, and the schools are here, so you have to stay. The schools are here. What else is available for them? But now, how difficult do these people find it to come every day to pay the transport to come to those schools? How difficult it is.
Hello, Honorable Member. You might want to please summarize your submission within a minute. Thank you.
Have I exhausted the time? I think
Yes,
I have 5 minutes.
You have gone beyond 5 minutes already.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. And also, for example, in the provincial areas, you have schools that are kilometers away. Kilometers away. And the students, girl students, boy students have to travel. They have to walk. They don't have any means of transport. So they have to walk by foot to those schools. Coming back, I am not suggesting that the schools be built in every community. But what I'm saying is there should be a facility established to help these people move from where they are to where these educations are accessed. If that is not there, the students will be late, number one. The students with difficulty, if you are sick, you might find it difficult to come back. The students that are in their, maybe girls, students that are in their menses, would find it difficult. Sometimes you are in the class, the things happen. Nobody controls it, involuntary. You have to come back home. How would you do this? These are all difficulties. That is why most of the poor performances are registered in those areas. Not because we don't have brains. Most of the students that perform very well here, when you ask them, they are from those places. Why do they perform poorly when they are there? These are all things that need to be. So, also, honorable members spoke about discipline. Discipline is not only comforting yourself in class, not talking in class. When your teacher asks you to do this, you do it. But discipline is even coming to school early. Discipline as a student, for a student, is reading. Discipline for a student is not coming to school with weapons. We have to touch both sides, or all sides. Not coming to school with weapons. Recently, we understand that some students are fighting their teachers. Some are even causing injuries to their teachers. So these are all things that need to be looked into. It's not what is in the eye that counts, but what lies behind the eye. So let us not just look at the surface. Let us look at what favors us as the Gambians. Not somebody who come bring us some document and say, okay, you can go by this. This is what favors me. What favors you? That is the question. I rest my case, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member for Birkaman North. Honorable nominated member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I think the topic at hand is, or the motion is very critical because it has to deal with the lives of people. It has to deal with the lives of the youths of this country. And it's very sad, like according to all the deliberations given here, we all know the reality underground, and we have been witnesses of this, and this is happening. And some of us are victims of the system, and we exactly know some of the reasons as to why we have to face this. So my first submission is going to be on the mass promotion of students that do not acquire or maybe do not have what it takes to be promoted to another grade. And this is the root cause, because obviously if you don't have what it takes for you to give the proper deliberation to people that you would be facing, it is obviously going to be or it is going to result to the failure at hand in this country. We have students whom, whether they pass or not, are promoted from grade 10 to 11. If you expect the same people to go to the college in that manner, acquire the knowledge at the college, and you very well know they are not equipped with the foundation. Now they've moved to another level, and you expect them to give the proper deliberations to the children or to the people. Of course, it's going to be a rotational failure, because the person teaching has no, or in fact has limited knowledge on the area or the focus of the course or the subject that has been given. Now, another thing is, you go to the Gambia College, you ask students, what do you want, or why are you here? They will tell you, I have no choice. And now a question has been raised. You went to school, you're done. They will tell you, I have no acceptance to the university, or what I want to study is not in this country, or I don't have the income, or my family do not have the income to send me to acquire university education. Now a question comes in. What is the government doing in ensuring that those students have the right education? Because it's been said that there should be quality and equitable education. Now the equality comes in. Are they equal with those that are in? Because they are citizens and students of this country, but they do not have what it takes. And we have so many people that have very good results and in the Gambia College, and they don't wish to be there. They want to go to the university, study the course that they've been yearning for, and fulfill their aims and objectives. But the only reason why they cannot do it is because they don't have the payment, which is so sad. And if you ask people, they will tell you, I don't have choice. Now, this is a question that we should ask. And this is one of the reasons why I think we should look into the educational policies, because this country we are living in, we are very good at making policies. But when it comes to the implementation of those policies, you look at papers, you read, you are enjoying, you are saying, wow, my country, these are all things they aim at. Come look into the reality, the practical form of what they've written. Is it happening? Those are questions we need to raise. And Honorable Speaker, you look at teachers trained in the Gambia College and you ask them to go to the provincial Gambia, they will refuse to go. And it's true, they have to, because the condition, they are not provided with what it takes for them to go to the provincial Gambia to give those children the education needed. If you want to take someone to a new environment, you need them to adapt. And in adopting, you need to provide, there should be something that should be attractive enough to take the person to that destination. That is why you have teachers that are very equipped. You tell them, go to URR, CRR, they will tell you no. Why? If you go, this and this and this is what is happening, which is not telling well. I personally have been an eyewitness. Just recently, I am from URR. I've seen students trekking from Naude to Diabugu-Batapa just to go to a senior secondary school to learn. How many hours will you spend?
Honorable member, your time is up. Thank you. You may assume your seat.
Just make this quick submission and then
Honourable member, I might give you 30 seconds.
So just taking from Diabo to Naudi to acquire.
Sorry, could you switch on your mic?
Just to walk from Naudi to Diabo, just to acquire knowledge. How many hours are they spending on that highway? Because you need to pass Kurau, Nyankui, you pass Jagajari in order for you to arrive in Diabo. So this is very sad. And then I think the government of this country, as a primary duty, Biara, should take these things into consideration. Thank you so much, Honourable.
Thank you, Honourable nominated member. Please, Honourable members, may I make this announcement that you each allocated 5 minutes to make your submission, the elapse of which would lead to the switching off of your mic, or the automatic switch off of your mic. And in order to make sure that the proceedings go as planned, please, we advise that you keep your submission very summarized, even if you can put it under 3 minutes, but at most 5 minutes. Thank you so much for your cooperation. Honourable member, I cannot see your tag. Yes, Honourable member for Jokado, please, you might go ahead.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I want to give my submission on the need for the reassessment of the national education policy, where I will talk about the accessibility of education. The accessibility of education, I think it is still lacking. It is a policy, but it is still lacking, especially in the provincial area. Because there are a few schools in the provincial area. Let me give an example of Jokadu. Because for that, it's a very big constituency, but it has only one school, where you will see students from very far places will be coming to Kuntea in order to access education. Places like 𝒒𝒉𝒊𝒔, they will take all the way from 𝒒𝒉𝒊𝒔 in order to reach to Kuntea to have their distinct education, in order to learn. And those senior schools, even those schools which are there, are they having the standard or equipped lab, science lab, where students can have access to education? There is need for those schools in the provinces also to have access to these equipped labs. It should not be only centered on the urban areas. It should be decentralized. Because if you look at, let me give you an example of Kuntea. They have a senior school, but there is no equipped lab. So what if you have a student who wants to study science, who wants to specialize on science? How will that student be able to do it? If he or she have the capability, he will not be able to do it because he will not have the access. So I think that needs to be looked at. Now the second thing I want to buttress on is mathematics for disabilities, for disabled. Come to look at maths. The disabled are given a limited gap to have access for maths. Because I can give you an example where my sister was at the Gambia College and she was not doing maths at the Gambia College. She will come and tell me that I am doing all the subjects, but we are not doing maths because we cannot do it. They don't have the materials in which they can use to do maths as people of disabilities. So I think those certain materials should be provided for them to be able to do maths as others are doing, because we have equal rights. All of us should have access to education. Honorable Speaker, allow me to quote under the Constitution of Section 13, 1997 Constitution, Section 30, which says there should be accessibility of education. Yes, there are schools bills. There are so many schools bills in the provincial area. But are those schools having enough teachers? No. Most of these schools are handicapped because of the environment. Those schools should be having standard quotas where teachers can stay and teach effectively. You cannot expect a teacher who is sleeping under a small hut to wake up early in the morning and go and teach effectively. Can you compare that teacher with somebody who is living in a very comfortable place with well-equipped fans and the others, enjoying all the social amenities, to be the same with someone who...
Honorable Member for Jokado, your time is up. You must please resume your seat. At this juncture, may I please collect the names of the honorable members that may want to take part in this debate so that we will be able to estimate the time needed and as well go according to that list. Please, clerks, help me take such list. Honorable members, you may want to start taking the list on the left-hand side in order to ensure that you're properly able to get the right constituency names. Honorable members, please permit us to observe this process.
Honorable Speaker, I want to suggest, since time is not on our side, why not you give chance to any of the honorables to make deliberations whilst the taking of list is going on.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, I wish to ask which part of the standing orders give restriction of speeches, as in the case of 5 minutes. If the time for the session for the day elapses, we can always move a motion for extension. So I wish to understand what part of the standing orders, give the speaker to restrict honorable members in making their submission. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any honorable member want to make a submission in that regard?
Honorable Speaker,
yes,
I rise to kindly respond to the concern raised by the honorable member to my left. That is actually sanctioned by our standing
honorable member, you might address me as honorable member for Woolly West.
Okay, yeah.
Woolly West, sorry.
Woolly, okay. Honorable member for Woolly West, your concern you raised is that whether this convention of giving 5 minutes to members is sanctioned by the standing orders. Yes. Under section 30, paragraph or subsection 3, states clearly that no member shall speak for more than 5 minutes. Sorry. So in actual sense, it is not on his own as part of our standing orders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable member. So we might proceed to have honorable member for Upper Salum make her submission whilst the clerks continue to take the list of the honorable members that would want to take part in this debate. Please proceed, honorable member for Upper Salum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. We have been discussing about education policies. We've been discussing about issues, but are we talking about the technical school that we have within us? Especially in Sierra, we are lacking that. We don't have technical schools in Sierra. That is affecting us. Because if we look at it, it's not everyone that is good in class. Some of us are there, we are not good in class. The only thing we can do is, if we have enough technical school, though we have them in Combo here, but I can say that it is not affordable. Not everyone can go there, but because if school is expensive, like 20,000 plus, people like me, poor background, you cannot go there. At least the government should help us provide technical school for us, so that we will have access to them that are accessible, so that some of us can go there. Because if you look at it, some of us are there, we are just wasting our time. Going to school, grade 1 to 12. After then, some of us, we will just go and be apprentices. Some of us will go and start fresh to be tailors. What caused that? It's just because of, it is not organized. Let us tell the truth. Let us just stop hitting around the bush. It is not organized. Because if you look into that, it is not well organized at all. If you are not good in class, you might be good in something. If I cannot be in office, I can be at the carpentry or something else. Especially in CRR. CRR, we are lacking that. We don't have technical schools. And the other thing also I want to talk about is when it comes to social amenities. In CRR, we are lacking that. Like the way classes in combos are and CRR is quite different. Like in CRR, you will go to some schools. You will go there from morning to afternoon. You cannot even go to the toilet. It's not conducive and it is not even healthy. So I'm just begging the government, because we don't have much time. Let them help CRR people so that at least we will have technical schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member for Upper Salem. Honorable members, as we said, the names of representatives that want to make a submission with regard to this debate have been collected, and as a result, I will call upon the honorable members based on that list. As a result, at this juncture, may I call on Honorable Member for Okonyomi to rise and make his submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I want to base my submission on vocational education, because we have been talking about policy. Yes, we talk about the policy, but if you look at like our policy, if a policy doesn't respond to the need of the people, that policy needs to be changed. A policy, no matter how good it is, if it doesn't respond to the desire and the need of the people, that policy needs to be revisited. I have no iota of doubt the policy needs to be revisited because of it doesn't, respond to the needs of the people. We're talking about, free education for all. If you look at Section 30 of the 1997 Constitution, it said uninterrupted education, and you keep on promoting people like that. You fail grade 1, you promote until grade 12, and they expect you to pass with flying colors. I believe if this continue, we will continue complaining until the second coming of Christ, nothing will be addressed or solved. So in that note, I will talk about the issue of vocational education. Yes, they are incorporated in our education system, but they are not given priority. You go to a school, the time allocated for example, woodwork, woodwork, home science, metal work is very limited. And those students who are very good in metal work, they are not considered as intelligent students. The administrator of these schools, the parents, they would prefer to see students who are good in mathematics, science, and agriculture as the good students. But someone who is good in arts and craft, health science, or any other vocational subject, the person would be considered as a dull student. Are you serious of what we are advocating for? Let me tell you, there is no country that can develop without skills. As a country, we need to know what we want first. A glaring example is China. 30 years ago, China was a backward country. But now, within 30 years, they developed. They develop because of what? Skills. If you want to develop as a country, skills need to be prioritized. If you don't prioritize skills, we're not going anywhere. If you continue saying, okay, we want to produce grammarians, and then we tell you, good grammar is not an ownership or monopoly of leadership. We need to train our people to become skillful so that they can develop our country. Because of this country cannot be developed by foreigners. We, the Gambians, are the ones who are going to develop this country. Let us come up with policies that will respond to the desire and the need of the people. Not red letter laws policies who are in place but they are not implemented or they are not pragmatic. If a policy is not pragmatic, that policy cannot address the desire and the need of the people. Honorable Speaker, I think we need to come up with policies that are pragmatic, that respond to the needs of the people. Not red laws policies that are very attractive if you read them. But in implementation, they are in place. They are not doing much to us. So I believe as a country, stakeholders, they need to come up, they need to revisit this policy and make sure that they come up with a better policy that can respond to the needs of the people, that can address the desire of the Gambians. Because of any policy that doesn't respond to our desire is a bad policy, no matter how attractive it is. So in that note, I would encourage stakeholders to come up with, good policies and also to involve technocrats. Not that you hold political positions and you are given the chance. No. Let them bring technocrats and let them, help us with policies that will respond to the needs of the Gambian. Not policies that will respond to the needs of the Western people, but the needs of the Gambian. That's what we need. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member for Kanyumi. May I now call on Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒏𝒆𝒍.
Honorable Speaker, members of this House, it is rather disheartening and sad for me to say that a system that is designed to fail will inevitably fail. In my submission, Honorable Speaker, I would like to look into the various stakeholders that are involved when it comes to education policy and of course the curriculum of our country. And in that I will look at the ministry, and of course I will also look at the institutions that are in place, the service that is put forward for this particular action, and of course to also look into the students, and then last but not least, I will look at the parents. Honorable Speaker, when we talk about education policy, I believe the first failure began with the Ministry of Education of this country. First, when we are drafting these policies that will govern the education or knowledge banks of our country, we do not in any way involve or engage the stakeholders that are involved. That has to do with engaging the young people that are in the system being directly affected by these policies. We do not ask about their opinions, and most definitely we never even put them on the platform to even listen to what we are proposing to serve as a guiding document for their educational system to be prospective and of course to have a successful knowledge gain. And then again, you realize that even if they are designing these policies, you cannot take a few to sit in a comfortable room where there is AC and fan and every facility for them to be comfortable to design a policy that will reflect the desires of the young people of this country. It is not possible. What they will do at the end of the day is to read various articles and documents written about education systems, and then they will compile these documents and bring it forward for us to use those documents as our education system. Believe me when I say, what works for Jerusalem might not work for Pakistan. So we need to put this into consideration. Let's involve the young people that are directly impacted by these policies that we will be drafting and putting into the field for them to be affected by it, so that they will give us what they feel and how they feel to be governed by these policies, in ensuring that there is total involvement and of course to have a say in whatever laws that are being put in place. Having said that, you would understand that the government of the Gambia, in placing institutions for young people of this country to go and of course gain education or gain knowledge, they do not give all the facilities that young people will need in order for them to be able to realize their full potential in gaining knowledge. One is that if you go to some of these senior schools, I will start with senior schools, not even tertiary institutions. There is no way that you will go to 10 senior schools within the combos and find that there are 6 of those schools that are having vocational or technical or vocational education and training centers or classes. You realize that some schools do not even have a woodwork allocated classroom. Some schools will not even have a metalwork allocated classrooms. In fact, even those that are gifted with the talent of being able to draw and design, they are not given the platform to be able to express themselves in those schools. How do you expect us to have good architects? How do you expect us to have good, engineers? How do you expect us to have good lawyers? how do you expect us to have good teachers when from the beginning they are never motivated to serve their country willfully? At the end of the day, what will happen is that these young people will grow into adults. And these are the adults that will become the leaders of our country. Eventually, the circle will continue. They will sit in their comfortable zones, design whatever they feel is necessary or okay for the country, and put it forward for the country to be affected. And believe me when I say, in most cases, a law that is made without me, is not for me. So if I am not involved, it will affect me directly or indirectly. But again, you will realize that there is the only power that I have as an ordinary citizen and young person of this country is to speak and advocate. Sometimes these advocacies are never even adhered to. They will just be, I would just say, a word on a dead horse. It will never be listened to. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the service that is rendered into this particular domain motion that we are deliberating on, it will surprise you to know that a lot of young people go into the teaching field willingly, without any force, without any influence, because they wanted to serve their country. Eventually, what will happen is there will be no motivation from the side of the government or institutions that they are to be able to maintain those services in our system. What will happen? These young people will now turn into, civil society organization members, form their own societies to be able to advocate for what they feel is lacking in the system. And that is what we are facing in this country today. A lot of young teachers are running away from the system simply because there is no motivation to ensure that we maintain their service and sustain it for a better development of our country. Again, the students I will go to, you realize that there are a lot of students in this country that have been distracted. I'm not even going to talk social media. That have been distracted by the various actions and inactions of the elders in the societies or environment where they're learning. One, a child that comes to school very late. You realize that a child that comes to school very late needs to be cautioned. But what will happen in our schools is that when they enter the school premises, the first thing that they will face is corporal punishment. Even though there are policies in place that ban this particular act, students will be asked.
Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒂𝒂, your time is up. You might please resume your seat. Honorable Member, I just wanted to inform you that there is a screen in display to help you track your time as you're making your submission. In order to not get disappointed and not to omit some of the vital areas you want to deliberate on, you might want to be occasionally looking at the screen so that you're able to summarize your submission within 5 minutes. At this juncture, I would like to call upon Honorable Member for Kantora to make his submission.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor at least to contribute to put a submission on the need for the assessment of our educational policy and curriculum. First, I will begin with teacher motivation. Generally, if there is failure in the external exams such as 𝒂𝒂𝒂 and WAS, most of the blame go to the teachers. Teachers are not doing their work, teachers are incompetent, or teachers are not serious with their job. Forgetting that, forgetting that most of the teachers in the teaching field are demotivated, and there is no other chance for them to venture into other areas to have a meaningful livelihood. And this is forcing many teachers to run from one school to another or to teach in 2 or 3 schools. I ask you, how do you expect a teacher who is teaching in 3 schools in a day or in 2 schools in a day to be effective in his job? And when we say teaching, it doesn't only mean going to the classroom and deliver the information to the student. It needs a lot of preparation. In fact, I can say 60% of the teaching, or let's say a lesson, should be done before we go into the classroom. That you have to prepare a lesson note, you have to prepare your learning material before you go to the class. And if you don't have time, if you are teaching in 3 schools, how do you expect the teacher to do it? And these teachers are doing this, running from one school to another, in order to have, at the end of the month, in order to have a good remuneration, so that they can at least provide something on the table for their family. And I think the government should look into that, Honorable Speaker, at least to motivate teachers in order to retain them in the school system. And when I say motivation, it doesn't only mean good salary. Provision of social amenities, especially in the provincial areas. The area that I come from, I tell you, if you go to some of the schools, you will find no staff quarters in the school. And some of the communities are so close, I don't know how to phrase it, but they are so close, they don't entertain strangers. And we find it very difficult sometimes even to rent a house. And at the end of the day, the community will just come together, build small houses, improper houses at the outskirts of the community because they don't want you to come and mingle with the people in the community. And a teacher who is living in that kind of environment or in that kind of condition, how do you expect that teacher to deliver? And I think the government should look into that, not only providing good salary for teachers, but also at least bring a lot of programs or policies that will motivate teachers to have a very good job. Another area I want to look at is learning materials. Honorable Speaker, we all know in our schools, especially where I come from, in Kantora, most of the schools there, they don't have good learning materials. How do you expect a school where agriculture is taught and they don't have an operational garden? How will you teach the students to understand how a plant grows? The only thing they know is the diagram of a plant, the parts of the plant, and the function. But if you give them a physical plant and ask them certain questions, they will not be able to answer. Or how can you teach students about microscope when the physical microscope is not there for them to interact, for them to touch and feel, for them to see the parts that you are teaching them? Example, talking about the lenses on the diagram. If you bring a physical microscope on the classroom and ask them to identify the lens, most of the students will not be able to identify because diagram alone is not enough for students to understand. I think, Honorable Speaker, we need to urge the government to provide a lot of learning materials for teachers, for them to be effective and efficient in their jobs. Okay, another one I want to look at is skills acquisitions. In my area, there's a big problem. It's a big problem in my area because most of the subjects that are taught there is math, English, science, and SES. If you're lucky to have other areas, it's very few. And even if you are taught in those areas, you don't have competent and let me say qualified teachers to teach woodwork, to teach metalwork, or even ICT in those schools. What they do is, Mr. X, I think you are good in technical drawing, come and manage. You should pass the stage now. Manage.
Honorable member, your time is up. Please resume your seat. Thank you. May we please hear from Honorable Member for Banjul South?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor to deliver my submission on this topic. Okay, for me, I believe that the problem we have in the Gambia is that we judge students based on their results. People are good in different things. And imagine the past grade 12 results. People are saying that students have been using TikTok, this and that. That cannot distract people. If you don't want to be distracted, you will not be distracted. The thing is that teachers have to be encouraged and they have to increase their pay scale. Imagine, in my constituency, we had only one high school, and people from different regions usually come and attend that school. Imagine, the school has been transferred to, I don't know, 𝒂𝒊𝒏 or where. So imagine the people, those who are traveling from CRR, LRR, NBR. So do you expect those people to travel from those regions to go to 𝒂𝒊𝒏? The distance from their regions to 𝒂𝒊𝒏 is very far. They will not even make it on time. Classes are not effective. Sometimes you will go to school, even to see a teacher or even lecturer is very difficult. Just as my fellow honorable mentioned earlier on. One teacher will be teaching in different schools, and you expect that teacher to be effective in that school.
Honorable Speaker, point of correction, please.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Could the Honorable Member kindly tell us whether those students were staying in Banjul, because she did mention about students traveling all the way from Sierra to Banjul. I know for sure it's practically impossible for someone to travel all the way from Sierra to come to Banjul and have class and go back. So could the Honorable Member kindly make it categorically clear to this august body that where they're staying in Banjul and now they will have to relocate to 𝒂𝒂𝒏, that is somewhere, that is where the new school is situated now. Could she kindly clear that to this august body? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. You may resume your seat. Yes, Honorable Member for Banjul South, would you want to respond to that question?
Okay, some of the students we are based in Banjul, some of them we are living with their friends, but you will see that the distance between Banjul and 𝒂𝒊𝒏 is very far, and sometimes the traffic is a problem. So to reach to the school on time, that will be another issue as well. So that is why the time that they wanted to move the school, people were saying that they shouldn't do that because students were coming from everywhere in the regions just to have access to education. That's not because the schools they have in their regions were not good. Maybe it's because the accessibility that they have and whether those schools were well equipped. So I believe that the government should do something, especially about the curriculum of the education in this country. Because sometimes you will graduate from grade 12 and you don't even know what you want to study at tertiary level, which is a very big disgrace because it has happened to me. So I believe that the policy and the extra curriculum and everything in this education system should be looked at. Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member for Banjul South. May we now hear from Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒂𝒏.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Gambia will not achieve quality education until we recognize the challenges and remove them in terms of girls' education. Looking at this year WAEC results, we have more girls that sat to these exams. But at the end of the day, we have more male kids doing better. The gift of intelligence is not gender specific. So as a country and as a society, we need to look at this. What are the obstacles that the girl child is facing? When we talk about accessibility, the distance from the school can be a challenge. For most families are reluctant to send their girl child to school because of safety. When you go to the provinces, there are schools, there are secondary schools that are 9 to 8 kilometers away from certain villages. So it's not safe for this girl child to be traveling when they close school at 6 back to these villages, because they can be raped, kidnapped, or anything could happen to them. So the families would prefer to keep their girl child at home than letting them go to school. The other issue is menstrual pain and lack of free menstrual pads. Girls lost a lot of hours because of menstrual pain and lack of sanitary pads. This could be dealt with by the government providing free sanitary pads and women's centers within the schools. The other issues affecting the girl child is early marriage, teenage pregnancy. Because of teenage pregnancy, most parents fear to let their girl child complete secondary schools. So what they do is they give out these girl child to marriages. And at schools, they have these gender officers. But I believe these offices are not effective. We have parents taking their kids out of school and giving them out to marry. But if someone in these societies do not report these cases, most of the time the school do not notice. The other issue we have that is affecting the girl's education is pregnancy, whether the child is married or not. When the school notices that the girl is pregnant, they send her away. So when they send this girl away, these schools never make follow-up to bring these girls back to school. Because of society stigma, these girls tend to withdraw because they do not have the confidence to come back to school. So we'll advise the Ministry of Education to look into these issues and have the gender offices in the school being very active to bring these kids back to school after giving back? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Busumbala. May I now call upon Honorable Member for Sane Mentoring.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor to take part in this deliberation. Yes, I am deliberately going to start with saying that education is not only about learning the facts, but preparing the mind to think independently to be able to solve societal problems. Well, just as I heard from previous speakers, I am going to connect this statement to the previous speeches of the previous speakers, that our education system is more theoretical than practical. We are just trained to pass exams. We are not taught or trained how to solve societal problems. Because if that is the case, we will not continue to take experts from other countries to come and solve our problems. We live here. We know what our problems are. So our curriculum must reflect our problems so that we have solutions for them, or we can devise solutions for them. That is one issue that I have problem with as regard to our education system. I think the Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒂 made mention of this. Digitalization of our education system. We are still using the same system that was given to us by the colonizers. Who is telling us that we cannot change it? Are we limited in capacity? Why can't we try? Why should we be fear of change? We should not be scared. We must take that audacious, bold step to change things in a way that it will be able to solve the problems that we have in our country. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I know we still have it, but it's not as we were disturbed like before. School-going children lost valuable hours because the education system is not digitalized. I know Gambia is a poor country. I am not saying that each student be given a laptop, but at least there should be ways that if another situation, if another pandemic should come like COVID-19, which we are all not praying for, but we live in a dynamic world. Things keep on changing. Because we have COVID-19, it doesn't mean another pandemic will not come. We don't pray for it, but it's possible. This is the right time for us to learn our lessons from this COVID pandemic. And make sure that when we are making policies, we don't only consider the long term, the short term rather. We also have to consider the long term. All right? And because of these prevailing circumstances in our education system, the resultant effect is this: poor civil service, which attracts institutional failures. Because if you want to advance in any sector, education is an urgency that we cannot ignore. In fact, we cannot even afford to ignore it. All right? So we need to ensure that we equip our civil service. How do we equip our civil service? We have to do that through education. Do we remember the lost decade? In the late 1970s and the early 1990s, what happened? Because of the malfunctioning of our civil service, a structural adjustment program was introduced. How did it come about? Because there was a vacuum in our civil service. Those who escaped the harsh realities of our education system, the few that escaped and they could not stand the test of time within a malfunctioning civil service, they all had to relocate to Europe and America in what we call the brain drains, and we are still having it. Those who escape our realities here, the harsh realities of our education and our civil service, are relocating to Americas and Europe because they cannot make it here. So we have to ensure that we build on our civil service. And how do we do that? We can only do that through education. And the sad part of it is that we will allow our brains to drain to the Americas and the Europes. But what happens is we still build on their own brains. Because when we have problems, we call their experts. What are we doing?
Honourable Member, thank you so much. Your time is up. May I now call upon Honourable Member for Sami?
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, for giving me the floor to have my say on this motion at hand, that is need for reassessment of national education policies and curriculums. I will concur with the previous speakers that this thing, the reassessment of the education policy is a need, and it is a call that needs to be amplified by all respective stakeholders, in as much as we all want to achieve the quality education that we are all yearning for. First of all, I want to base my submission on the area of inclusion. I believe we all have inclusive education in our policies, but looking at the realities on the ground, there is no inclusion or limited inclusion. People with differently able people are not that much catered for in our...
Honourable Member, you might use the term persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Speaker. So this category of people are not catered for that much in our school settings. Looking at the school settings, you go to 95% of the schools, the way they are constructed, it is very difficult for a person in a wheelchair to access the classrooms, talk less of the toilets. So, which means the inclusiveness there is still lacking. So this category of people within the society, I think they need equal opportunities like any other person in the society. So we should start by engaging the right authorities, especially the construction sector, to start looking at these things by constructing ramps for people, for wheelchair users in schools, to access the toilets and other important facilities in the school. But you will all concur with me that especially at the provincial Gambia, thank you. Most schools in provincial Gambia, these facilities are not created. Like ramps are not created for wheelchair users to access the toilets. And when you enter the toilets, these toilets are, most of the toilets, 95% of the toilets are squat toilets, which are not usable to this category of people. So I think in as much as we are talking about quality and inclusive education, this area need to be thoroughly looked at, because conducive environment is one way in ensuring that this individual learn effectively. So without much ado, Mr. Speaker, that was my submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member for Sami. Honourable youth parliamentarians, may I please bring it to your attention that whilst you are in the chambers, you are not allowed to wear glasses, especially dark glasses, except if they are medically prescribed. Thank you so much. On that note, I would like to call on Honourable Member for Lower Badibu.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable members of this assembly present here, I am without no doubt in support of the motion in hand that is saying the need for reassessment of the education policy and the curriculum. First of all, Mr. Speaker, looking at policies are created to address a need based on a particular time. So when we come to policies, they also have a time bound. So there is a need for reassessing the policy to suit the present condition that are to emanate. For instance, I'll quote a policy that is 3 kilometers. Students should not walk more than 3 kilometers to one school, from one school to another. In that case, many schools are being built by MRC Hollandais and other philanthropists. But yet still, the schools are accessible, but the standard of the school is not there. What I mean by the standard of the school, maybe the structure will be okay, but the human resources for that school to function in full capacity is not there. Because the teachers, there is understaff of the teachers. There are not enough teachers in some of the schools, and then the students also are not enough. Because when you look at an example like Daslame, from Daslame in North Bank, Jokadu, from Daslame, Bali to Daslame, there is a school in Daslame and there is a school in Bali. So the people that were coming from Daslame, we are going to Bali. So if you look at that, the distance is not much far, but it is increasing demand in human resources. If the government are trying to bring a policy like, 3 kilometers, they should also consider the human resources in order for that policy to be attainable. In a sense that, when they build a lot of schools and then the human resources like the teachers are not there, then it doesn't make sense to me. Honorable Speaker, in another side also, I would like to talk about the centralization of schools, more especially, the tertiary institution. I will start with the secondary institution in North Bank where I come from. When you look at the educational system, in North Bank we have senior schools. But in these senior schools, we are having only 2 senior schools that have a better lab. I'm not talking of standard lab, a better lab. That is maybe Essew and Farafenye. There is a senior school in Kuntaya, which doesn't have a science field. What of students around that vicinity, if they want to study science field, where will they have that? That is also encouraging them to move to the campus. And in that case, it is also creating domestic migration, which have a great impact in the society. Once the agricultural aspect will be affected, so many things will be affected, and it also have impact in the place of destination. Like when you come into the place of destination, so high pressure on social amenities, So some of the things, the schools that are built in the rural areas are not well equipped. I would draw down to Kerewan, as that is my constituency, Lower Barik. Kerewan is having a senior school. It has all the 3 fields. But looking at the equipment in Kerewan and compared to other schools in the campus, is quite different. Yet still these students graduate. Grade 12, they start for the same garbage with the student in the urban centers, accepting to go the same requirement at the University of the Gambia. Is that fair? Logically, it's not fair, because you've gone through the same examination, yet still you are under unfavorable condition. Like, when you are doing science, you don't have the materials, you don't have the standard lab, yet still you manage to have some credits, and then you come and apply at the university. Not a surprise, most of the students that occupy the university will be from the urban center, obviously. So hereby we are trying to, ask the policy makers to make sure that if they are trying to make policies, let the policy.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time is up. May I now call on Honorable Member for Central Balibu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor, and thank you, Honorable Members. I would like to make my submission on accessibility based on learning institutions. If you look at the education policy, which talks about accessibility to education, there are 5 institutions in the education system of the Gambia. That is 1, ECD, that is Early Childhood Development, Primary School, Upper Basic, Senior Secondary, and finally Tertiary Institution. If you look in the Gambia, there are few ECD schools. And those few that are in the Gambia here are centered at the urban centers. In the provinces, what you have there is attached ECDs to lower basics. Then I suggest the authorities to look into that and establish more ECD schools in the provinces, especially the region I come from, NBR. If you look at NBR, there is only 2 ECD schools, which is one at Bara Esew and the other at Farafeni. All the others are just attached ECDs to low basics, which are not promising. And the people that are presenting on those ECD schools are just teachers who are trained for primary teaching, just taking a part-time and spending and engaging the children at the ECD. If you look at the accessibility on primary education, it's available. There is no doubt about that. In the Gambia here, especially in the region I come from, there is no village where you will walk more than 5 kilometers to a primary school. That one is attained. But if you go upper basic, and what I observe in the Gambia here, based on this accessibility, the higher you go, the fewer the institutions are. Like if you go to the upper basic, there are fewer upper basic schools than primary schools.
A point of observation, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
The Honorable Member is making reference from a book without taking permission according to Section 16, Article 16 of the Standing Order, C.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Yes, I'm not making any reference from any book because all these that I have here are not materials. There's no foreign.
Honorable Member for Serekunda, please switch off your mic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, then if you, Honorable Member, you might proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. If you also move on to senior secondary schools, there are fewer senior secondary schools. The final one is tertiary institution. If you look at the Gambia, we have only the private institutions, and the government are only the University of the Gambia and the Gambia College. And those areas or those institutions are centered in the urban area, which makes the provincial children the less privileged to access those areas. And also on accessibility, there are people in our localities, or there are students who want to pursue certain fields of education, and they are not available at their destinations. Like if you look at the area of commerce, there are people or students who would want to study commerce in the provinces, but having those subjects in their school is a problem. I will give an example of a school that I heard about, which is Jawaguda Upper and Senior. There was a time having a financial accounting teacher was a problem, and then there is a commerce field. How do you expect a student who is a commerce student and is doing the commerce field without doing financial accounting? Then I think there is need for more trained teachers on those areas that are lagging. And if you look at those areas or that problem being affecting those schools in the provinces, I think the authorities are not doing the proper monitoring of those schools. Then I suggest the authorities to be monitoring schools and the way they operate and the fields they are having in their schools. As a result, this will lead into educationists preparing only politicians, which is what the arts feel, which will increase the number of politicians in our country who will go back to the local communities and tell them stories which are not that much relevant. On that note, I am stopping my statement here. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I by now call upon Honorable Member for Bakau.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. What I am going to discuss about here is that
I am going to say that our education system is caging us. That is, our education system is not giving us the freedom to do what we want. For example, if I want to be an actor, there is no place for me to develop myself to be an actor. Now what I am saying is, if these educational policies should be reformed, I would say they should have what we call a periodic reform. That is, for example, every 10 years, our education systems, our educational policies should be reformed. Because when we say policies, they what? They reflect the needs and desires of our people. Now when we say it should be reformed, and we do not say it should be reformed every 10 years, what we are facing right now, our future children are going to face the same thing. So what I said here is that our education system is caging us, because when I want to be an actor, there is no place for me to be an actor. So what we say here, when we introduce the vocational courses, that is, when the introduction of vocational courses come, they should not come after grade 12, but students should be given the liberty at grade 1 to interact with all these facilities. All the facilities should be provided to them. They interact with it. As they are going towards grade 6, they will finally build interest in one of these activities. By the time it is grade 7, if they are interested in technical drawing.
Sorry, Honorable Member, you advise that when you speak, you go close to the mic so that the recording will be clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if you are interested in technical drawing, then by then, you should be carrying your pencil in your back, or if you are interested in carpentry, you should be having hammer and other materials in your back. Go to school and learn about those technical courses. But when we want to wait up to our grade 12, where students have already been caged, they have been taught, teachers have been telling them, if you don't pass your exams, you will be an carpenter. Who will want to be a carpenter when the teachers are demoting those jobs? Do you think students will have the belief or confidence to be a carpenter? Students are being taught that carpentry is bad by the teachers. Now, even if you are a carpenter, you meet your fellow students, you will feel shy to say, I am a carpenter. So that is why I said our vocational courses should be introduced at grade 7. And students should be free to interact with all these materials from grade 1. Before grade 6, they would decide their fate in which of the educational systems they want to venture into. And that will bring productivity in our educational system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. May I now have Honorable Nominated Member, Women Rep for Okoriba Region.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. My concern is about the vocational centers that we have in URR. We have few vocational centers in URR, but they are centralized almost in one place. Though there are a lot of facilities for the students to be going to school and practice, do their practicals normally, and the teachers are there, trainees are there to train them with all the knowledge that they need in our vocational centers. But one thing I want to recommend the government is to decentralize those vocational centers and send them to other constituencies around URR. Because there are a lot of consequences in URR that, you know, they are very far from where the vocational center is in the region. And secondly is the mentality that we have when it comes to vocational education. Before, when I was in grade 7, or even in primary school, there was a vocational center around my school. But whenever I see these people, I believe that these are the people that don't know nothing inside the class. That's why they are in those vocational centers. There's a school in URR in which, you know, when you go for admission, they are looking at your results. If your aggregate is between 54 downwards, they are taking you to technical class, meaning that they are demoting technical so that only those that were not unable to make it are in that technical class. While when you see technology, it means that we need intelligent people who should be sitting in those classes so that tomorrow we can have good architectures. When it goes to other departments, they look based on your aggregate and give you to go to the either arts or commerce department, which shows that students will not be happy to be seen in those classes. And whenever you go to those classes, there are a lot of students in those classes, but for them to come to school also will be the problem because the way they are seeing them in the school. Secondly, when it comes to TVET, the lack of motivation that students are getting from parents, either being at home or from their friends. Because whenever they see someone going to this TVET institution, they'll be looking at you as someone who you know that you don't know anything. I can take an example of myself. When I finished my grade 12 exam, I joined SOS YETEP. Hadn't been, I was listening to what people were saying. You are a science student. What are you doing in a training school? Can't you go and study medicine? Can't you go and do nursing? But none of them asked me what did I want to do. Sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Nominated Member. We are so sorry that this area of discussion means a lot to you, and we are very motivated that you've taken it at heart to express your emotions in this regard, because this is exactly what a lot of young people like ourselves are facing in the communities, and they do not have the opportunity to say it. So having the opportunity to say it for the whole world to hear is a great pleasure for this honorable parliament. At this juncture, I will now call on the honorable nominated member from Persons with Disabilities to make her submission.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you to the House. Okay, so I would firmly say there needs to be a change in these policies and the curriculum of our education. But to start with, I believe in order for these changes to be done, the budget for the educational sector needs to be increased. That is what I believe. And now, the points I would want to talk about within these policies would include, when it comes to materials, availability of materials in schools, it is very insufficient. For example, let me take the textbooks. When textbooks are being supplied to schools, the ratio of textbooks brought to the school per student would be, let's say, 5 students would be sharing 1 textbook. In order for you to get exact everything that is in that textbook as a student, for example, let's say you are someone with visual impairment, you need to share a textbook with someone. The person who is not with visual impairment will, benefit more from the textbook than you do. But if each and every student is provided with this textbook that they need, it makes the things easier for you. Again, language. Let me reference this from one of our neighboring countries, Senegal. In the Gambia here, in most schools, especially in public schools, the only official language we learn in school is English. But you go to other countries, it is imposed on the students to learn the official language of their country and another international language. It is something that would be imposed. Here, even for example, you move to the university level, if you are to do French, some of us down in the university would be the first time we'll be taking the French lessons, and we'll just do it for 2 semesters and we are done. That's just it. But look at Senegal. A job opportunity may come for someone who graduates from our university and someone who graduates there. A person from the university may be speaking Spanish and Spanish and French. The only language you can speak would be English. The person stands a higher chance of getting it than you do. So I believe the educational policy, when it comes to the language that we treat in school, needs to be changed. Again, when it comes to materials, going back to that, inavailability. For example, most of the things, we are to learn, like one of my honorable members have actually mentioned that earlier, are not provided to us. Sometimes we use pictures. He referenced the amoeba and paramecium and all. We use pictures. Let's go to skin diseases, for example. You're in the medical school. Most of the pictures, because we don't have live practicals, what we have is they bring, a specimen or a picture. And most of those pictures, when they appear, it's on light-skinned people. The rashes or some of the skin diseases, the way it will, the coloration or the way it appears on the light skin would be different from the dark skin. And let's say, for example, I'm in a community where, people are dark. I am to practice on them. What I will be seeing, it will be very difficult for me to identify what I've seen in the picture and what I've seen actually on, what is exactly happening. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. I now call on Honorable Member for Jara West.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker, and good morning to the fellow Honorables here. All right, I also want to give my submission on the need for assessment of the national education policies and curriculums. I think here the first thing that we should do, or the policy makers should do, is on when making decision or when making policies, they have to do environmental scanning, because you cannot speak for these teachers or you cannot speak for someone whom you don't know. So environmental scanning here should be done. And also in our schools, I think here our educational system here is not teaching us who we want to be. Just here, you just get the paper, and at the end of the day, you are seen somewhere else. Let's say you study agriculture at the college, and at the end of the day, you see yourself as a receptionist. That's not the field that you study. But no, the system made you to have that. The system made you to be in that receptionist area, because the system doesn't actually taught you what you really want to be. I think here we should have a career guidance centers in our schools. You will see to it that before getting grade 9, you yourself actually you will see something meaningful in that career guidance center, which you will be motivated before going to grade 10, and you will specialize on that specifically. So here, what we are saying here, at least, especially in the provincial area, especially in my region, LRR, our senior schools, most of our senior schools doesn't have these skill centers or this vocational school training, like the metalwork and the woodwork. And it should be there. Here, we cannot all be mathematician or someone with good English. No, someone has to do a handwork too for him to achieve something in the future. So you cannot be at grade 10, 11, still you don't know what to do in the future. Here, I think the educational system here is teaching us to get the paper, and at the end of the day, wherever you see yourself, no, that was not your aim. Here you see someone who studied at least law and be a cashier in one of the banks. It doesn't tell well. The educational system here is teaching us to get the paper, not what we want to be. So here, career guidance centers should be in our schools, guide students, and at least before getting grade 12, you will know what you want to be. And also for vocational schools in our regions, we have the structure, but the availability there is not accessible. You will have the structure, but the equipment or the lecturer will not be there, so it has no use. And also, specifically, we don't have any school for the people with disabilities, and it should be there. Here, if your child is blind or your child cannot walk with 2 legs, that is the end of you. No, it shouldn't be like that. At least the government also should decentralize this type of schools in our region. Specifically, I will speak on my region. Jara West, I don't think, even if there is, I don't think it's operating still. So, Honorable Speaker, I will just give my submission on that, and I think the government too should set a very good example. Tell the youth that you are also part of our pain. Send your school to the government school. You are making us believe that you are giving us basic education and with everything accessible. Why don't you send your child in that school? Send them there. Let us all struggle. In that case, we will know really the government needs or the government feel our pain. But sending your school to another school, whereas we are struggling under the sun, under the heat, and it doesn't tell well. You should be very, very much example here. Set example for your people in the future, and they will.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May I now call upon Honorable Member for Fonyi Brefet.
Good afternoon to all, and then thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor to also contribute on the issues that are also going on. In regards to reformation of the educational policy, Honorable Speaker, I guess this is something that which we needed long time than now, but yet still it is good that we still having it now. I'm happy that civic education is something that we just brought in our system, and also some schools also started to do IT as a subject, and then also some will be doing it up to their grade 12 of their WAEC level, WAS level. In regards to civic education, some time back when we went on a track, a nationwide track, we were engaging school authorities and then also some of the stakeholders in education aspect. Most of the people that we engage will tell us we are facing a lot of problems here is because civic education is something that which is not in our system, and it was there before it was called as civics, but now it is no more there, and that is why indiscipline is something that which is affecting our educational system. So when civic education is brought back into our educational system, you'll see some of the things that which we are complaining will no more be there, because the discipline aspect and other important areas will be part of our educational system. And then also the motivation aspect also is something that is lacking in public school, because sometimes you see that a teacher will be in a school and then at some point you will not be wishing to stay there in the next minute. So that being the case, you might not be doing your work as expected. And then when you check on the mission school or the private school, the administration there will try to make sure that all the rules or regulations are being followed. But in the government aspect also, in the government school, you see that sometimes the administration or the administrative will some kind of be having a laissez-faire issues, because you want to be strict on some aspect and then you will be having problems with the staff there. And that being the case, when you don't have a very good working relation with your staff, things will not go right. And then this is something that which also disturbing us. That is, for instance, when you are in the school of education, in the Gambia before, you do PTC for 3 years now, that had been changed to diploma. And then you do your diploma course for 2 years. And then when you move to your advanced, that is before HTC, you do that one for 3 years. You move to the university also, you spend 4 years there. Now, let's count this. 2 years plus 3 years plus 4 years. It is something that which is also disturbing the education aspect. And then you will be with someone that is doing agri, and then that person will spend 2 years. And then when the person go to the university also, the person will spend instead of the person spending 4 years or 3 years, the person will just spend 2 years there. So you'll see that the education aspect of the education is at a disadvantage, because you spend a very huge amount of years in struggling, and then when your other colleagues will just spend few moments or years in that area. And also the societal orientation also. Sometimes you see, but at some point you blame the education system. When these vocational trainings are inculcated in our system, and in which some are already in our system, you see sometimes when someone wanted to do tailoring whatsoever, we belittle the job. And all of us that are here, sometimes when we dress, we all look perfect, and also we all like the dresses. But now someone that is doing that one, or someone that want to start, or someone that want to train that aspect, we belittle that individual, and then we all want to look smart. And then sometimes these are things that which our education system need to move on. And sometimes we also blame the teachers or the school or for the low performance, or the department that is responsible for education, that is 𝒂𝒐𝒖𝒕𝒂, and then also other institutions. But at some point, the homes also, they also have a lot to do. Because you cannot be with your kids, and then you obviously know they are not studying, and then you still keep quiet, and then you still ignore them, and then you don't always force them to go and then read their book. You will continue with it. And some of the parents also, you ask them who is the teacher to your child, they will not be able to tell you. So you are there like that, and then you are not that much concerned to your child's performance, and you want the child to come out with good result. And when you look the number of hours that which we do normally spend in school and the number of hours we do normally spend at home, you'll see that there is a huge difference. So parents also have a lot to play. And then we as youth also, let us also take the bold step to also make sure that things that aren't available, we make sure that they are available in our school settings. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May we now have Honorable Member for Jara East.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Borrowing from what the different speakers have said here, it's important that we understand that there is a current education policy that is 2016-2030 education policy. If you look at that education policy, there are provisions that are in fact addressing what we are talking about here. You read that education policy, you realize that it caters for technical and vocational training. You read that education policy, you realize that there are provisions for ITC. You read that education policy, you understand that government is moving towards the direction of ensuring education is accessible, but the question would always remain, how relevant is the education that we are providing in this country, but also the quality of the education that we are providing. Individuals might want to say there is limited relevance when it comes to what we are taught in our schools. But with the reviewing of the curriculum, like the Honorable Member said here, the introduction of civic education, the introduction of IT training from grade 7 going onwards, these are all areas that government is concentrating. But what is lacking in the education system is the quality of the education that we are given out. And the question is, what is making that happen? Fundamentally, we must understand, it is one thing to build school, or it is one thing to establish institutions, but those institutions would only function effectively and efficiently when they are resourced. Our schools, our colleges, our universities are not resourced. You go to the Gambia College, the resources are not available to train the teachers, to train the agriculturists, to train the public health officials. You go to the University of the Gambia, the highest institution of learning, the resources are not available. Students struggle day in, day out to access resources in the University of the Gambia, moving from one area to the other with chairs. A higher learning institution for that matter. And you want quality to be delivered. There wouldn't be any such quality to come out from that university because the resources are not available. But again, because the Gambia government has decided to open the floodgates of the Gambia College for the Gambia College to admit everybody and anybody from everywhere and anywhere, it has made that institution relaxed in the quality that it was producing. Come with whatever sort of credits you come from the senior secondary schools, the gates are open for you at the Gambia College to go, to be trained to be an educationist. You came with flat failure from anywhere, you are admitted into the Gambia College. Because
point of observation.
Yes, continue, please proceed. Honorable Member, you may address your seat.
Yes. The Gambia College is an institution where when you are to enter rightfully, you go through the proper procedure. So those that have flat F9 don't go through the required process. So that being the case, we shouldn't blame the institution as my honorable colleague is saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
The Honorable Member may not understand the fact that, yes, by paper the provisions are there that you must get the requirements to enter the Gambia College. But we understand right now that that is under question. Whether you come with the credits or not, you are admitted at the university, at the Gambia College. If you want to understand that, do a statistical review of the people that are admitted at the college, you will realize that yes, there are people that are entering at the Gambia College that are admitted at the Gambia College, but they do not have the requirement to be at the Gambia College. But again, the failure in the quality would go back to what the honorable nominated member for persons with disabilities said, education financing. The budget for education in this country is very low. One would say $3 billion Gambian dollars is too much, to be awarded to the education sector. But unfortunately, that 3 billion is not sufficient enough to finance the entire education sector of this country. We move on to addressing quality of education, we must put our eye on the welfare of Gambian teachers. That is also necessary. But when we talk about welfare of Gambian teachers, we are not only talking about their take home. We are also talking about providing them opportunities for continuous professional development. You are trained at the Gambia College, you are trained at the University of the Gambia and Central Education System. But we must realize that education, there are evolving realities in the education system, and teachers would only be aware of this when they are continuously and professionally trained to upgrade themselves where necessary. But again, when we talk about teacher welfare, when we talk, they would say civil servants are paid from a pay scale. So we cannot adjust the pay of teachers. But who say you cannot adjust the allowances of teachers? Who say you cannot pay teachers risk allowance? Who say you cannot pay teacher professional development allowances? Who say you cannot increase the retention allowances of teachers? You can do that, and that way you would address the welfare of teachers. But no, when we want to say something, they would say no, the civil service pay scale provides that we all be paid only according to the scale. But give us the reason to understand that you cannot pay us risk allowance. Give us the reason to understand that you cannot pay us.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Your time is up. Please note that when there is a point of order, it interrupts or interferes with the time setting. As a result, your time restarts. So on that note, if you exhaust the time, which if added together would pass the 5 minutes, I would get you alerted. Sorry if that might have caused an inconvenience. At this juncture, honorable members, I would like to call on Honorable Member for Budunka Kunda.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Okay, I will first start with the free education issue. If you give me the chance, Sulai said the so-called free education, because we have been hearing about free education, free education. Yeah, maybe it makes sense if you pay school fees for me, but it doesn't make sense at all if you did not buy a textbook for me to go to school and learn. So you expect us to come out with good results? The system needs to be changed, to be honest with you. The system needs to be changed. So it will not work if you do not give me a textbook or a uniform or a shoe to go to school. We keep on hearing about this free education, free education. So about this free education, I think Ministry of Health need to do something about it so that it will favor all of us. And the other thing is...
Point of order. I would like to remind the Honorable Member for Bundunga Kunda that the Ministry of Health is not responsible for education.
Thank you, Honorable.
Okay, Ministry of Education, sorry for that. And the other thing is, if we can be honest to each other, how many of us encourage our younger sisters and brothers to go to college because of their 3 credits or 2 credits? Though some people use the bagways, even if people use the bagways, who are those that are involved in this bagway admission to the college? So we need to do something about that. We need to check the system of the college, the admission I mean. If at all people are using the bagway, then we have the college staffs, those who admit people to the college who are involved, in fact strictly involved. Without them, we will not have bagway issue to be admitted to the college. And the other thing is, we have community centers. I think all regions have community centers. So our community centers has been used in other way around. When some youth did not even know that they have community centers. So I am suggesting if our MPs, National Assembly members, can use the community centers and turn them to vocational centers with the help of the Ministry of Education, so that we can have something else to do with the community centers than going there doing things that are not relevant to us. And the other thing, we have 9 subjects, and you must sit for the 9 subjects in WAS exam. We have 1 head. Remember, the 1 brain we have. We cannot use that 1 brain and store in all the 9 subjects, and we expect our younger sisters or ourselves to come out with good results. It will be very hard on us. I think the subject needs to be reduced so that we can know the area we are good at and concentrate on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. And I would like to thank all the Honorable Members that have made contributions to this debate. At this juncture, I will call on the mover of the motion, who happens to be the Honorable Member for Serekunda.
Honorable Speaker,
yes.
I wish to inquire if my name was scripted.
I wish to bring to your notice that I do not have the name of your constituency on the list of those that you submit.
Honorable Speaker, that could have been the mistake of a particular clerk that came here, and then the person collected my name.
Honorable Speaker, with your permission, it's the same situation with me as well. I have also submitted my name to the said clerk concerned.
Honorable Speaker, the same. I raised my band up, but I was no script.
Honorable Speaker, the same to me too.
Honorable Speaker, I think it's the same thing with me as well.
Honorable Speaker, the same thing.
Speaker, the same to me too.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
My card is joined by 3 people, so 2 of us raised it, and my name was not called. I'm sorry.
Point of observation, Honorable Speaker. I would ask that this Honorable Assembly or the Honorables in the Assembly to stand up when addressing the Speaker, please.
Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, I think the Honorable nominated member next time should indicate point of order instead of point of observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Members. Whilst I understand that there has been an oversight in terms of the collection of your constituency names to make you submit on this debate, due to the strain of time, we might have to proceed with the proceedings by allowing the Honorable mover of the motion to come on board. This is because we have other motions, critical issues to look at as far as today's sitting is concerned, and as such I seek your indulgence to continue with the business of the day. Therefore, I would like to call on Honorable Member for Serekunda, who moved this particular motion, to respond to the concerns raised during the debate and wind up the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for granting me the floor. Honorable Speaker, after listening to the deliberations of the honorable members from their various constituencies in regard to the motions in the process of the House today, I would like to deliberate on their suggestions and the concerns that were raised in relation to the reassessment of the educational policy and curriculum. The honorable members from their different constituencies have talked about that we have to look at the disciplinary measures in schools. We also have to look at the long distance that our students travel to reach to their schools. We also have to look at the tools and materials. And honorable member, before moving forward, I would like to get your permission to observe 16D of the standing order.
Honorable Member, I'm not sure I get that request.
I said I would like to get your permission to observe 16D of the standing order to make reference from my book.
Yes, thank you. Please, when you're making reference, quote the text of such clause next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That is 16D of the standing order.
Yes, thank you. Continue.
That's what I've quoted. Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members have talked about, for the reassessment of the educational policy and curriculum, we have to provide the tools that would be needed for our students to be able to attain the quality education that we are anticipating. Also, to increase the inadequate materials that we have in our various schools and vocational centers for quality and standard education. They have also talked about the technical materials that are inadequate in our schools, and also the safety of the girl child, because an honorable member raised the question that the girl child at the provincial area that would close from school at 6 o'clock would find it very difficult to get back to the house while walking for 9 to 10 kilometers. So the safety of those girl children should also be looked at by the Ministry of Education and our government at large. We also talked about the high cost of vocational centers that we have in the country, that they should also be looked at least to provide accessibility according to Section 30 of the Constitution of the country, that these students and youths should be able to get access to our vocational centers without even, getting the financial means as well. So the Ministry of Education should also look at that properly so that we can have a standard education in our country. They also talked about the issue of the persons with disability, because our educational system, as one of the honorable members said, which is our educational policy from 2017 to 2030, is also looking forward to include these, or has already included it. But are we also practicalizing it? It is a question that we must also ask ourselves as honorable members. So we
Point of observation.
Yes, Honorable.
The educational policy is from 2016 to 2030, not 2017. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. You may proceed.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. 2016 to 2030, that we are looking for to include the IT and also give opportunity to the students to be able to have accessibility. But are these things being practicalized? We have not seen it. Honorable Member of the House and Honorable Speaker, we should also realize that we are in the era of technology. And if we want to compete with the international world, these things, especially IT and technology, should be introduced in our school system at a very early stage. Because if these things are not included or are not practicalized in our educational system at a very early stage, it seems like the development that we are looking for cannot be achieved. Now today, as a runaway teacher, as they normally call it, a rat, being in the education system, you would understand that in our schools, even here in the Combos, KM, to even have computers in our school for students to have access.
Remember, your time is up, but you might wind up in 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Now, the issue of technology is very important because today, when you go to our tertiary institutions, the university, and other vocational centers, youths of this country cannot even understand how to type or to even send emails. So this is even a concern, talk less of becoming IT specialists, creating websites, creating hackers in our country, people that are very good to safeguard our technology or our security of the nation. So these youths do not have these trainings at a very early stage, cannot do this at our national level. So in going forward, we think that if these things are introduced at a very early stage in our educational system, it will help boost the development of this country. So in that regard, Honorable Speaker, the motion in the House today to call for the reassessment of the education system is very important. That is the reason that we are here. The reason why we call it is because our educational system has really failed us. So the Ministry of Education should really look at these sectors to help us develop our youths and our children in the educational system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. At this juncture, I now put the question. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Parliament do adopt the resolution on the need for the reassessment of the national education policies and curriculums. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Clerk, we may proceed.
Motion. Be it resolved that this August Parliament do consider and adopt the resolution passed by the Regional Parliament on youth irregular migration and unemployment in the Gambia. by honorable female nominated member for West Coast Region.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to move the motion on youth irregular migration and unemployment in the Gambia, and after it has been seconded, with your permission, I would like to give my submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Thank you, Honorable Member. Any seconder?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I am Honorable 𝒕𝒉𝒊𝒏, Lower Nyomi constituency, hereby the seconding the motion moved by the Honorable Female Rep for West Coast Region on youth irregular migration and unemployment in the Gambia.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now put the question. It has been moved and seconded that this Honorable Parliament do consider the resolution on youth irregular migration and unemployment. Those in favor, please say aye. Those not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Therefore, honorable members, at this juncture, I would now open the floor for the debates. Any honorable member who might want to contribute to this debate can do so by raising their tax to be called upon. I now call upon honorable nominated member for West Coast Region who moved this motion.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. I would like to give my submissions on as to why I think this Honorable Parliament should consider the topic on youth irregular migration and unemployment in the Gambia. I'll just give some facts on both aspects, both on irregular migration and also on employment. So, irregular migration, we know, is the illegal means or unlawful means of people or youths moving from one place to another for different reasons. And there has been two factors that research or people have shown, and which is the push and then the pull factor. The push factor could be those that the circumstances or situations that make people to leave the country to go to the other parts of the world. Now, the pull factors are those that that tempt youths to move from one place to another, to the other parts of the country. Now, when it comes to the push factors, you have unemployment, you have, Honorable Speaker, if you will permit me, I would like to take from the paper.
You would like to?
I would like to pick a point from the paper, if that is permitted.
You mean you want to make a reference to a document? Yes, please go ahead.
So, according to the Worldometer, the Gambia is an underdeveloped country with a population of about 2.4 million. With a population of about 2.4 million, more than the half of the population of the Gambia is above 35 years, and 35% are between the age of 15 and 30 years. And globally, according to the IOM reports in 2018, globally, Gambia is ranked 20th in worldwide and second highest among African countries, arriving Europe through their shores. You also have a report. I also have a report from Frontex in 2019 that more than 4,500 Gambians arrived in the EU by irregular means between 2009 and 2018, representing 2% of the Gambian population, and this made the Gambia amongst or the second largest arriving in Europe. You also have a report in 2014 that at least 23,000 have lost their lives. So I think these is very alarming, and then it has contributed to the underdevelopment of our countries, because we have so many youths with substance that have undertaken this way just to go and look for greener pastures, and that is because of the unfavorable conditions in this country. So this is why I would like this Honorable Assembly to debate on this topic and then look into the issues that we think are causes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. We now call on Honorable Member for Talending to make his submission.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Member for Talending Kunjang to make her submission. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. My submission will be based on the lack of support to entrepreneurship. There is a high cost to the contribution of the irregular migration in our nation. For the fact that we see young youths taking this irregular migration is because of lack of support to the entrepreneurship. You will see someone graduating from university or someone graduated from senior school with skill, but the person do not have support. So it will make the person to sit at home doing nothing and also see his or her fellow members going to work and also doing something that is needful. So I think the government should do something about this. They should support the people that have skills in order to not to take this irregular migration, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. I now call upon Honorable Member for Lower Badibu constituency.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. So, first of all, I will start with defining migration. Migration is the movement of people from one place to another. You know, it is as old as human. Migration is as old as human. It's due to the evolvement of nature that make migration to be illegal or irregular. First, I will concentrate more on domestic migration, because all of this migration as the mover of the motion seas, there are factors responsible for it. And then there are push factor, and then there are pull factor. So for the domestic migration, you know, that is internal migration, moving from the rural area to the urban area or from the urban area to the rural area. But in the Gambia, if you look, moving from the rural area to the urban area is more common, and it is seriously affecting the people of the rural area.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
I rise on the point of order. The issue at hand is irregular migration. So I wish to ask whether that domestic migration is irregular. Thank you.
Honorable Member, you might want to respond to that or proceed.
Okay. Thank you for that order. But I believe that domestic migration is also irregular. You know, in the sense that, you know, it is detrimental to both the place of origin and the place of destination. So,
sorry, Honorable Member, the scope of the debate, which has to do with irregular migration, is entirely on the migration of the young people from the Gambia to overseas. Okay. Therefore, on that note, I might bring it to the attention of this Honorable Parliament to limit our debate to this definition. You may proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
I might want to, I will like to note that the motion on the table do not specify the kind of migration, whether domestic or international. And yes, domestic migration can also be irregular. Not all domestic migrations are irregular, but yes, domestic migration can also be irregular, and the motion do not specify. So I think we are discussing irregular migration, both domestic and international. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. May I invoke Clause 8 of the Standing Orders on Speaker's rulings to aver that in terms of the interpretation of the topic at hand, it is basically looking at the irregular migration of the people from the country to overseas. Whilst I accept that there is domestic migration, we believe the problem that young people are facing, the route by which young people are dying on a daily basis, is the migration from the country to outside. And this has in fact formed the basis of the submission by the mover of the motion, the honorable nominated member for Upper River region, for women representative for West Coast region. So at this point, I would like you to proceed, honorable member for Lower Barrio.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First of all, I would like you, if you could permit me to recheck that time, please. Because, yeah.
You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Good. Based on that consideration, we are talking about irregular migration, and then it is the international migration. So, Mr. Speaker, I will call on to your attention, without no doubt, unemployment is a reason for the high rate of irregular migration. Based on the survey conducted by Workforce in 2018, 95% of the youths that migrated through the back way to Europe are as a result of less job opportunities in the Gambia. And for that being the case, there is no doubt that lack of unemployment is a cost factor for youths embarking on the journey. And then I will quote my points as follows. First of all, I will start with, in the educational system, where we just conclude our motion from. The educational system, the curriculum is designed in a way that it doesn't make us to be job creators, but job seekers. And then the system is discouraging in a sense that after going through school, going to the tertiary institution, you complete your schooling, and then you work up to retirement, you can't even have a better life to live after retirement. So for that being the case, people following us are seeing that if I want to follow the same trend to complete my schooling, go to tertiary institution, and then go back and work under any civil servant, and then retire and live in such kind of life, then that is the reason why most youth go through the back way, because they don't have a trust in the system. So I am hereby submitting to the entire assembly that the government should try by all means to make sure that people have confidence in the system, in a sense that there will be good wages, that if people are employed up to retirement, they could at least live a better life. Mr. Speaker, and another thing also, the educational system does not cater for a wide range of youth, in a sense that it is tailored in such a way that is no more of practical. The skill is less, and then there are certain people who are very good in skill than only in written. Because of less time, I will also further move on to the government should try to expand each branches to cater for youths of different categories, in a sense.
Thank you, honorable member. Your time is up. I will now call on honorable member for Brikama South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor to take the House through my submission. The issue of irregular migration, I think, is a problem that is multidimensional. It has different variables. It has different factors that are contributing to it. And any efforts to address such problems will require a multidimensional one, so that it will touch every aspect of it. Honorable Speaker, we talked about the issue of education, and I think that is one of the contributing factors, because one thing that education should do for us is to be able to have employment, and that employment must be gainful employment. But that is obviously one thing. And if you look at the other side of it, it's like we have an education system that only enables us to understand the theoretical aspects of things that we do, and then not the practical side of it. I can take an example of what has happened with the grade 12 results this year. If there's anything that it reminds us is the fact that there's a need for TVET, that is technical training schools in the Gambia. We understand we have some, but most of the ones that we have are only within the greater Banjul area. And then it leaves the people in other regions with almost no options if they want to venture into those areas. But also within, in fact, those technical schools that we have, are they able to equip the people that are going to those schools with the skills that are needed that will enable them to gain employment? Even after creating a business that they'll be engaging on, to what extent are they patronized by their fellow Gambians so that they can get something at the end of the day? And Honorable Speaker, I just want to say this. It's an observation I have. Whilst growing up, until today, if you ask someone what you want to be in the future, we mention, I want to be nurse, I want to be doctor, I want to be different things that people will normally say. Along the way, maybe 12 years later, you graduate from high school, and then 4 years later, you go to university and you graduate. And then if you look at the area that employs the most of the people that graduate is the public sector. And if you look at it, the salaries that people are paid there, people in fact struggle to maintain a decent life from the salaries that they're having. And to some extent, it forces people a certain extent. The more you're going, responsibilities are coming for your family and then for other people that also need to take care of their issues. What happened at some point is you might be forced to be in a situation whereby if you do not, for example, own a house or have a house, what you are having for the rest of your life will not be able to create a house for you. So I want to believe if we are to address this problem, we need technical training to be introduced at the earliest stages of our life, of our education curricula, that is around grade 9 onwards, so that when you graduate from there, even after finishing your university program, you will still be able to have skills that will be able to ensure that not only the job that you just specialize on, but you will have another skills that will also enable you to have other means of earning that will be added into the ones that you're having. The other day we spoke to one parliamentarian. He was telling us that he engages in fishing, and there was a time he was receiving around, as a teacher, was receiving around 3,000. That's the 3,000 he got 2 days from Saturday and Sunday if he doesn't go to work. So imagine almost what he's having from that fishing is actually more than what he is having, comparing the 4 weeks that we have in a month. So therefore, there's a need to ensure that, if you're in an area that will enable you to engage in fishing, you engage in that area, and those people obviously will need support from the government. If you are good in carpentry, that I believe you should be able to learn in our high schools onwards. If you finish your program someday, you'll be able to have the opportunity. If a day that you're not going to work, you will have something extra that you will do that will ensure that you're earning beyond the salary that you're earning. If that is not happening, your expenditure at some point, will be more than the earnings that you're having. So you're going to put you in a situation where you're just going to continue just to manage like that. And I think that could be a contributing factor, in fact, to corruption. You're just working in the workplace that's no more sustaining you. So that was actually my submission on this. And then I believe that it's a huge problem that we will need different approaches to address it. But I think when it comes to skills, that should be one of the areas of focus. And then in so doing,
Thank you, Honourable Member. Your time is up. May I now call on Honourable Member for Serekunda West.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Okay. A population where they said about 64% of their population are the youths. And these youths are the very one embarking on this journey called irregular migration. Do we try to think that recently even people that are working at the office are migrating? Do we even sit a minute and realize what is the cause? Why are they migrating? For example, somebody receiving $5,000 as a salary need to pay a rent of $3,500 without even just a room and a parlor. These are the people that are facing a lot. All what the youths are facing, like hand to mouth. Even if you're working at the office, the salary are not sustaining us because everything here is expensive. And what are the things that we need to work on is like we have good entrepreneurs, like youths that are having the stuff in head, that are skillful, but the problem is they are not trained in a professional way. Like they don't know how to market their products, how to do good branding, how to expand, and how to make their business sustained. So this is the reason why even youths that are already skillful cannot maintain or sustain the business that they are having. At the end, they will turn back and look for a job. There are people that are at the office, but still suffering. Although they have skills, but they don't know how to manage their skill. And I think there is something that we need to introduce, like professional training should be given to entrepreneurs so that they can manage their business. And also, when it comes to skill, like skill centers should be developed. Most of our consequences are having like skill centers. Let us try and make those skill centers available for the youths so that they can learn skills. And after learning skills, we need to come up with advocacy to help them manage their business. Because this is the reason why most of the youths that are in for this entrepreneurship are losing courage. Because at the end, you will be given the stuff of being skillful, but the platform to establish what you learn is a problem. This is something that we need to learn, and we need to help like the youths so that the irregular migration can reduce. Because so many of our youths are involved in this, and especially women, they are sexually harassed, and which is something that we need to stop as a youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. May we now have Honorable Member for Combo East. Honorable Member for Serekunda West, you might please switch off your mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to intervene in this topic, a very concerning topic for that matter. Two topics basically, but very much aligned, that is unemployment and irregular migration. And if you look at it critically, you tend to understand that one is very much of a causative factor for the other. Employment opportunities in these countries are scarce, and the few that are available are not employment opportunities that are sustainable enough, just like the Honorable Member for Serekunda West alluded. You see, as a country, if I sit down and then just analyze things, I come to the conclusion that I don't think we are actually very serious in combating irregular migration in the first place. We are not. That's not the case. Because even those people that have embarked on this very dangerous journey and then they are forced to come back are still finding it difficult to be convinced that they can make it here. Because the opportunities are very, very scarce. Okay? I made mention of unemployment in the first place, be it very much,
Point of observation.
Yes, Honorable.
I wish my fellow Honorable to clarify this point, that is, those who are forced to come back, forced in which manner? Is it the state or the situation there? Thank you.
Yeah, obviously, forced to come back, I mean, they came back, due to the circumstances there. Some couldn't make it to the place, and some were deported, obviously. So, and in that situation, I would just wish to cite one example in that case. Recently, in my constituency, I don't need to go far. There is an existing project there, which was funded by the FAO, and then I will be, to some extent, when I say a project, it might be even confusing because it's not something that you could even actually call a project. It could be just a so-called project because the structures are there, But in the end, that's just it. The machines are there and they are just rusting. And this is a project that was meant to target returnees to provide employment opportunities for them. After the launch, it's been more than 2 years. This project is not functional. As I speak right now, maybe if you go and then you even want to operate those machines, you will end up realizing that the machines are not even fit to this thing, how to function, because they have been standing for a long time and they have not been, operational. So that is one thing. So if situations like that and many others, in which projects are established and then they don't last, they don't produce the required results because of mismanagement, because of poor administrations and the like, and then these are little, limited opportunities that could, help, those that are not employed. Opportunities of such natures are just being, messed up and ending up being missed opportunities like that. Then, it brought me back to my conclusion of how we are ready to, combat this, crisis that we are facing, that is irregular migration. So, our youths, we will continue losing them, either regular means or irregular means, because even the football, which, so many youths are into, the opportunities are very limited. We have seen how many times did we lose, Gambians here to Senegal, those that are passionate about venturing into football, because they see better opportunities outside our neighbor in Senegal than in the Gambia here. Okay? And that's not an irregular mean, obviously. It's a regular mean. But even in that case, you realize that so many, kids, that could be good footballers in this country are not having that talent is just being wasted. The only time that the talent is utilized most of the time is, when they have these opportunities to go out and so on. If you look at some of our Gambians in Italy and others are doing fine in football because the opportunities are there. They're doing it fine. So unless,
Thank you, Honourable Member. May I please call on Honourable Member for Nyamina Dankunku.
Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Member, please, when you're standing on a point of order, indicate that you're standing on a point of order.
Thank you. I just want to make an inquiry before it is late. I wish to be told if my name is scripted this time around.
Yes, Honourable Member, your name is captured. Yes,
Thank
Honourable
you.
Member for Jimara, your name is captured too. Please, Honourable Member, you may proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, Honourable Speaker. Okay, I just want to contribute on this irregular unemployment. Okay, if you can observe, or if we are good observant, this irregular migration is caused by unemployment and lack of job opportunity. When we say unemployment, it's two ways, either by the government or self-employment. And if we are not having the facilities where we can learn skills and employ ourselves, we will most embark on this irregular migration. And if we are not employed, or the youth are not employed, they must embark on this irregular migration. So we have employment, some youths are employed, young people are employed, but if you observe or you look or you go back to records, you will find that even those who are involved in these irregular migrations were employed. We see teachers, police, we are all involved on what? On this irregular migration because of the payment. The pay scale is very low. What you are receiving, if you take it home, there's nothing. So you must embark on this irregular migration. So that's a point that's also disturbing. And the other thing is lack of enough facilities. We have a lot of dropouts that are not engaged. They are not learning skills because the facilities are not there. I will take example of CRR. In whole of CRR, there's no school center. Single skill center is not there. All our youths that are involved on these skills, they are either in the combos or they go to Songhai in are not backed. So these are another contributing factor. That's why if you go to Sierra, a lot of these young people are engaged on this irregular migration, which is disturbing. So I think the government should also look at that point to decentralize these facilities, these vocational centers. Because if they are based on one side, even that basing on one side, they are not enough. Because if you look at the GDDI, if you look at the Gambia College, it's all filled of people. And somebody who lives in the provinces, you have no relative. You expect that person to come here, paying that fee, at the same time also finding where the child will be, so that he will have that qualification whereby he will earn himself living. These are all contribution factors that are leading to this irregular migration. So this was what I was having.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. I now...
Honorable Speaker,
yes.
Permit me to ask, please. I wish to be told if my name is noted.
Honorable Member, we would confirm that. At this point, we'll move on with the next speaker. Please advise that if you're standing on a point of order, you indicate that you're standing on the point of order. At this juncture, I will now invite the Honorable Member for...
Honorable Speaker, I wish to rise on a point of order.
Yes.
And also to ask you, parliamentarians are here to speak to the issues that are before the table today. So it will be very ideal to allow every parliamentarian, let's not be too focused on the time. Let's give the parliamentarians their constitutional right to express their, the concerns of their people, the concerns of the young people of this country, freely, without having to focus too much on the time and restricting certain other parliamentarians from voicing out as we advance. I believe we are here, we are voted to be here and to speak to issues, rather to be suppressed by the Honorable Speaker, only because of time constraint. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Is there any Honorable Member that wants to respond to that observation?
Yes. Yeah, I wish to actually respond to what he rightly said. I think it is important that we focus on the agenda rather than the time. We have enough time. We can always move a motion for extension. So the most important thing is to give everyone a chance to speak if they really want to do so. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Members. The concerns raised are quite noted. However, it is good to remind this Honorable House that the sittings that have been conducted are done with certain circumstances on the ground. And these have to do with the facilities that have been provided for in the sittings, the time that has been allocated to return to your dwelling, the issue of nutrition, the issue of prayer time, etc. And in order to ensure that one of these activities do not harm the other, there is need for time to be allocated for speakers and time also to be allocated for the motions to be discussed. If not, we will not be able to exhaust the discussion on the most critical issues facing young people. We might end up spending the entire time discussing on only two issues. And I want to believe that will not serve the purpose of why we're here today. On that note, I would really seek your indulgence that when you're doing your submission, truly, if you limit your submission to the subject matter and keep it brief, we'll be able to talk about all these important issues and on time. And we would not have to rush or limit the submission by an honorable member. So on that note, I will call on honorable member for Janjanbureh constituency to proceed.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Sorry, honorable member.
Wait, I asked for point of order. I'm asking for.
Please, you may rise to raise your point of order.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I guess there was a time, Honorable Speaker, you acted outside your powers because when you look at the standing orders, 32 we talk about debate of motion, and then it 3 read. When he or she is satisfied that no more member wishes to speak, the speaker shall call upon the mover to reply, and immediately the mover has concluded his or her reply. The motion shall either stand refer to an appropriate committee for further consideration, or the Speaker shall put the question to the Assembly for adoption. So in this regard, if you are restricting people, I wonder where you get these powers from. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Would you please mind repeating the clause that you invoked? Sorry, I mean the clause you referenced, yes.
Yes, I said in the Standing Order, Section 32, which talks about debate of motion, and in subsection 3.
Yes, please continue.
Yes, I said earlier on you acted outside your powers unless when you provide a substantial evidence, either from the standing orders or the Constitution. And then Section 32, which is debate and motion, subsection 3 reads, when he or she is satisfied that no more members wish to speak, the Speaker shall call upon the mover to reply, and immediately the mover has concluded his or her reply. The motion shall either stand referred to an appropriate committee for further consideration, or the Speaker shall put the question to the Assembly for adoption. Thank you.
Yeah, point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
I feel like I am definitely representing a constituency, but for the fact that, just as he was saying, it's like you have overstepped your function. And to an extent, it's like I am not representing my constituency for the fact that I have some views with regard to a pertinent issue that was under discussion. I could not have my view on that. And this is why when the Honorable Member for Woolly-West raised a motion initially that we should have our house in order, that is to have a standing committee on these issues, I feel that it's very pertinent for us to have standing committees on these issues. For example, education that we are talking about, as per our constitution, we have a standing committee on that. They could do their committee sittings and come up with recommendations on that and report to this August body. And this will minimize our submissions, and then it will make our procedures fast. Thank you so much.
Point of order. Please, may I make clarification on the issues raised before we continue the point of order? First, Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒏, in respect to the clause you reference in terms of the powers of the Speaker in relation to the debates going on, it says, and when he or she is satisfied that no more member wishes to speak. So here is saying that the Speaker has the discretion to determine if him or her, the Speaker, is satisfied that any more member should continue to speak, and as a result, could call upon the mover of the motion to win of the debate. So what that means is, in this capacity, I could determine if you will be able to speak or not, if I am satisfied that you'll be able to speak or not. So it's quite important that we note that part as we move on into these proceedings. This, however, might not be done in a manner that it would disrupt the proceedings as far as the sitting is concerned. But we understand in the execution of this clause in good faith, it is still the discretion of the Speaker if the Speaker is satisfied or not as to the submissions that are received from the honorable members. And in so doing, I would also want to indicate to the honorable member for Jimara constituency that we do not still, we still would not leave out the importance of having this committee set. And in relation to the motions and the adoptions and the resolutions that are going forward at these committees. But it has already been indicated from the beginning of the proceedings that such process will be finalized tomorrow. And as a result, all of these motions and all of these resolutions will be submitted to the various committees that have been established. So as a result, I will seek the indulgence of the entire Parliament once again that we proceed with the proceedings at hand and give room and space for the completion of this process in our sittings tomorrow. Thank you.
Honorable Point Speaker, of order, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for 𝒂𝒂𝒏.
Thank you. You see, we don't want a parliament where when the Speaker speaks and then we don't know where he derives that powers from and then we continue like that. So my understanding, this clause said, that is section 32, subsection 3, says, when he or she is satisfied that no more member wishes. So this one is directly referring to the honorable members, not when the Speaker wishes for any other person. It says when
when he or she is satisfied that no more member wish to speak, and then there were times that members wanted to speak, and then they were restricted from giving their point. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Point of order.
Honorable Member, may I please respond to that? Honorable Member, I wish to make it clear that that clause is addressing the speaker, not the person that is speaking as far as the submission. Because if that was so, it wouldn't have indicated that if he or she is satisfied that you are actually to speak. If not, it would have said that if you, honorable members, are actually satisfied. But it's addressing the position of the speaker. And in so regard, I would invoke clause 8 of the standing orders, which gives room for the speaker to provide a decision in terms of the interpretation on the various clauses in the standing orders. And as such, this interpretation should be considered final. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker,
yes,
please.
Honorable Member.
Yes. Am I given the podium to carry on?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Regarding the selection of committees, I think the Honorable Member for Jimara has rightly said it is important that we do so. Looking at the time allocation, I do not know if my law background is very poor, but from the surface it says debate may then take place upon the question and may continue so long as any member wishes to speak who is entitled to do so, subject to any time allocations applied by the House Committee. And then in this situation, it is the Honorable Speaker that is applying the time allocation. So I would want you to clarify that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. So it is actually two different clauses that are still in the standing orders. So even if there's a class in terms of meaning, what supersedes is the ruling of the Honorable Speaker in terms of the interpretation. And like I said, in this circumstance, the Honorable Speaker has the discretion to continue to allow the proceedings to go as they are supposed to go, as per clause 8 of the standing orders. And in so, that becomes final. Please, I would beg your indulgence so we continue with the proceedings.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would want to come up with the area of you limiting us from speaking our voice. In that area, the first motion that was published, that we have spoke on, majority of us were not given the privilege to say out our view because of simply the class did not write our names. So this second one, I want to suggest that if you can read out the list of consequences that we have recorded there, so that we know exactly whether we are involved in the among the people who are going to deliver our points. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. That request is noted. However, the procedure, as far as the submissions are concerned, as I communicated in the earlier submission, is that you raise your tag and your name will be enlisted. As a result, such procedure was followed, and we will not be able to gather evidence that your tag was actually raised of an activity that took place about 30 minutes ago. In so doing, I'll be relying on the list submitted by the clerk to read out the constituency representatives who will be making deliberations. And I am happy to inform you that such list has not yet been exhausted. And I will continue calling on the members to make submissions in that regard. I hope that is actually clear.
My tag was up, but I'm not sure whether I'm still in.
Honorable Member, if your tag was, please you may resume your seat.
Thank you.
Honorable Member, if your tag was up, then the clerk must have got your name down. And as a result, I will call your name if your tag was up. Thank you. May I please call on
Honorable Speaker, please, I stand on a point of order.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Yeah, pertaining to the select committee issue, our regional clerk on the day of arrival, we were, for North Bank, we were asked to choose the committee that we would like
Honorable
to be.
Member, please note that that discussion is out of the House. You may limit your discussions to those.
Very true.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. May I please proceed? May we please proceed by listening from the Honorable Member for Janjanbureh? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would like to talk about illegal migration. Like CRR, we don't have skill centers. For example, I would like to take this example from the constituency I'm coming from, which is Janjambure. We don't have skill centers, and that's part of the problems we are facing, and lack of opportunities. For that being the case, I would like to urge the government to help us with the skill centers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. You might want to put your mic off. Yes. May I please invite Honorable Deputy Speaker?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the floor. As for the motion on the table currently, because National Youth Parliament has a civil society mandate as well, I was opportune to extensively engage returnees of irregular migration across the country. And I would just want to deliberate on some of the causes and the way forward. And to also inform this House that, in fact, 6 out of 10 young people in this country have access to secondary education. That means we are more educated than the older generation, but 25% less likely to be employed. And that informs why young people are leaving. If we are more educated and less employed, then it is natural instinct for us to go inside of greener pastures somewhere. And that's also informed the need to have entrepreneurship as part of our education system, not only at tertiary institutions, but also for it to be introduced at a very early stage, so that we will make sure people are not trained only when they are stuck. We have seen our entrepreneurship trainings in the country. It is people who drop out of school, migrant returnees, and for the few of the people who are of course in school but have interest in entrepreneurship, which is at a very low scale. So it is important we inculcate entrepreneurship in our school curriculum to equip our people. I heard the Honorable Speaker for Combo East, if I am right, saying somewhere even having their job when they were...
Sorry, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I want to believe you might want to address that correctly.
The Honorable Member for Combo East.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Somewhere leaving, somewhere having their businesses, their jobs, even when they were leaving. But we again relook at these businesses. These were people doing businesses, but with no or little entrepreneurship skills. So it wasn't reflecting on their lives and livelihoods. That's why they opt for the irregular migration. And we looked at the statistics right now. For the few who have undertaken the journey and succeeded, they're the ones building the beautiful houses in our communities. And it is enticing. Let us face the fact. It is very enticing. And the few others who are left in Europe, suffering in the streets of Europe, we are not hearing their stories. Therefore, we are not able to balance what is the impact of undertaking the irregular migration to Europe and coming back. And also, when it comes to the issue of data, we have very limited data when it, in regards of those who have returned from irregular migration. What are the number of young people that were supported economically and psychologically when they came back? What is the number left that are not attained to, so that we'll be able to close the gap? Because we are having instances where young people will come, they will be trained, they will be funded, and they will use the same fund to go back to Europe, which is very unfortunate. And I just want us to look at this very well, because if you are training people, giving them fund, and they use that fund to go back, that means that is not the right time that they needed that training. So we need to go back and relook at our curriculum and make sure young people are trained enough before they before leaving for greener opportunities outside. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Please, may we hear from Honorable Member for Jara West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor again. Okay, irregular migration here is a very major problem among the youth here. Since migration is a human right, everyone has the right to go out, in and out of the country. So I think here, for irregular migration to be limited, I think the government has to do something for the legal migration. At least the government also, or those that are responsible for this migration, should be very vigilant at some point, or flexible. Make accessibility, make this migration very accessible. Make visas to Europe very accessible. At least that will reduce irregular migration. But you cannot put people here, not providing them job, not providing them visa, and you expect us to sit here. We will go out, firstly. So I think they should make visa or any other means for traveling or migrating to be very, very easy, or provide something for us here. You cannot put me in Jara, whereas I don't have education. You don't build a skill center for me. You don't do anything for me, and at the end of the day, you say we are providing for the youths. Where? So at least the vocational training centers should be very much equipped. It shouldn't be, the government even are not encouraging us to go to the vocational. It means that if you are dropped out of school or you are nothing in the society, that's the time you should go for vocational school. That shouldn't be the case. It should be something that we are willing to, like the English and math. You should get the English and math, and you should get the vocational education or training too. It should be something that we want to do, not something that at the end of the day is the last option. That's why Honorable Deputy Speaker said they will use the fund again and go back, because even if they think they have that training here, the same problem will occur. They might not have employment again. So I think here the government should intervene. The government really has to do something about this irregular migration. If not, we will not develop, because we are the youths that should work at the agricultural field. We are the energetic one. For agriculture to boost, or for our economic to boost, we should have at least a very, very good produce at our farms or in any of these sectors. But you cannot allow us youth going out. At the end of the day, you are claiming one agriculture, we want more product. Where are we going to have the products? Where our old ones are the very one in the farms. Those the products that they are having at the end of the day is just for home consumption, and that will not even last for 2 months. So you will see that we will keep on talking, and at the end of the day, we will still go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member. We now hear from Honorable Member for All Yundum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the floor. Unemployment has really immensely contributed to the youth irregular migration. When we say youth irregular migration caused by unemployment, like Honorable Deputy Speaker rightly mentioned, people that have migrated, building mansions, living luxurious life, and young, vibrant people that live in this country, being schooled and educated in this country, cannot get that employment to live those luxurious life. You don't expect them to live in this country and then not getting that sustainable life in order to get those luxurious life as well. So it forces them to leave no matter what it takes, not considering the fact that it's illegal or legal, regular or irregular. Also, the same young, vibrant people are exposed to the syndrome of who you know, not what you know. These people are people that have good qualifications, grade ones for that, left in this country, going into job interviews, what you will be forced to ask is, that is what they would force ask you as, who told you to come here? It is your right as a young, vibrant person to come and seek for employment, but it is who you know, not what you know. And also, young, female, vibrant people with good qualifications going into offices are exposed to the syndrome of scratch my back and I scratch your back. Give and take. Now it's not my right to go in for the employment, but what you can offer. And if I cannot offer that, you're stopping me or you're denying me of my rights to being employed. And this would make young female people embark on irregular migrations, which would lead to them being sexually harassed on the way, and also people with those young females that are going into this irregular migrations, and even male, and losing their lives in the Mediterranean Sea, and that is also the loss of us as young people. Looking at this fact, I think the workforce should be looked at in order to address this. The workforce should be looked at. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you so much, Honourable Member. May we hear from Honourable Member for Jimara.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, for giving me the floor. As I deliver my submission on this issue at hand, I can tell you that there are youths in Jimara who are still thinking of going on this irregular migration. This is because we have something at hand that we don't have any plans for the youth, for the fact that, in as much as we want to empower the youth, how do we do that? Where we get it done is the entrepreneurship. You understand? Entrepreneurs are game changers. They solve a societal problem and also help in the long run to employ the youth. But this is what is not at hand. So long we know that youth empowerment project, is trying, GIZ is trying, okay, but the government as an entity does not have a fund that is allocated or that is strictly named after the youth empowerment project, wherein funds will be given to the youth to come up with projects that they will implement as well. So I have it this way that this August body should look at the need for the government to come up with funds allocated for the youth so as to help them venture into entrepreneurship and not just the donors doing it. That aside, once you look at the other thing, that is the skill acquisition aspect of it, Jimara is opportune enough to have a technical
Point of order, Honourable Speaker.
Yes, Honourable.
I would wish to clarify to the Honourable Member that, in fact, the National Enterprise Development Initiative is especially set to for that function in empowering young people with financial projects. Might be what we could advocate for is for them to do more, but the institutions exist and there are funds for young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Still on that, actually, to look at it, the startup capital that is given to the youth is definitely not sufficient for them to keep the business up and running. For example, if someone wants to go into, let's say, tailoring, you give that person $50,000, would that be enough to keep that person up and running for 6 months? That is the question. That aside, looking at the skills, Jimara is opportune to have a technical training center, that is GTT Annex. But the issue here is, it is situated in Julangel, and Jimara has 88 villages. Do we expect someone all the way from Dembakunda to come to Julangel and do that training? It is not possible. And then that center there is not accommodating people. And accommodation around that particular cerebral community is a problem. So it is definitely restricting the youth to learn that sector. And as for our very own Minister of Youth and Sports, yes, they are trying, we know as well. But we also want to see how best that they can so as to equip those communities, particularly those in the provincial Gambia, with areas that they can learn sports. It's not just about football. And even with football, URR up to now, at this point in time, don't have a stadium that we can call as a stadium. The one that is there is just a structure, an empty ground. The entire URA, talk less of Jimara, where I come from. So this is really appalling. That aside, we also want to look at, as far as youth empowerment is concerned, to create a certain percentage wherein the youth could be involved in every parastatia of the government. For example, let's say government entities, government organizations. Let's have a specific percentage wherein this youth will be, that will be allocated for the youth. For example, with GRTS, we can say, okay, 25% of their staff should be youth. And then yardsticks should be available so as to make sure that these people are employed, and then we know that they fall under the youth category. That, if it is done, then the youth will be connected and will be embarked or will be in the governance process, and that will have them being connected. If that is not done, actually, we believe that the youth will still continue to go on irregular migration as well, for the fact that they are not connected. And looking at the economic realities on the ground, I think not only the youth sector, actually, the government needs to revise what they offer for its public servants. If that is done, I believe a lot of Gambians, including the youth, will stay in this country and to work to make sure that they change the narrative. Thank you so much.
Point of order. Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes.
Point of order. Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to suggest to the August gathering for the last speaker, that is the Honorable Parliament for Jimara, if he could kindly withdraw the statement of saying having resident in that
Honorable Member,
I think
Honorable Member, order. You cannot rise on a point of order for a speaker that has already spoken and has resumed his seat. I would advise that you kindly resume your seat.
Yes, it's because of the time factor, sorry, please.
Sorry, Honorable Member. Please, if any Honorable wants to rise on a point of order, do so whilst the person that the point of order should be directed to is on his or her feet. On that note, I would continue to call on Honorable Member for Woodley West to make his contribution.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the rostrum to share my view on this very important topic that is at hand. Sorry, to begin with, and sadly, yes, the Gambia is a nation of all talk and no action, all talk and no cider. We've had several gatherings who alluded to us regarding irregular migration as well as unemployment. From the sweet stanzas of poets, the emotional speeches of imams and pastors in churches and mosques, to sensitization made by government officials and non-governmental agencies to communities around the Gambia. Still, we cannot, or we haven't seen any impact when it comes to irregular migration as well as unemployment. Of course, there are factors that lead to irregular migration. Unemployment is a huge factor, but what leads to unemployment is what our concern should be. That is where we should focus on. And that really has to be education. This is obvious to everyone present in this August gathering. That education, from the vocal organs of sociologists, that education is the workshop and laboratory of any social system. For our society to advance, we have to make sure that we educate our youths. The needs and aspirations of our country, as well as our education system, should circumnavigate and anchor on the needs and aspirations of our youth. This generation is very complex. We need it very fast. We don't want it to be slow. Second, looking at the cost of living in this country, it makes me cry. It makes me bleed internally to think that a bag of rice can cost more than $1,500. Having a civil servant or having a youth whose earning per month is not even up to $1,000 in some point. How can that person afford a bag of rice? Is a bag of rice the only need for him and his family? There are so many other things that the person needs to be addressed. Looking at the gap between the rich and the poor in this country is huge, and in fact, very discriminatory. Very discriminatory. You have a civil servant or a government official earning hundreds of thousands, and then you have a civil servant at another hand receiving less than $2,000. Look at the gap, my friend. Look at the gap, honorable members. Look at the gap, honorable speaker.
Honorable Speaker, point of order.
Yes, honorable member.
The honorable member for Williams, I think, is deviating from the topic. We are talking about irregular migration and employment, but he's talking about the gap between the rich and the poor and the expensive bag of rice. I don't know how he's relating it to the irregular migration and unemployment opportunity.
You will be surprised that I'm creating a suspense, but the issue itself is beforehand. We will get there. I hope you are satisfied with that. Now, when you look at the gap between the rich and the poor, you have a son of a minister or a particular government official who's been given all the basic necessities of life. And on the other hand, you have another child.
Honorable member, you have 1 minute.
Who is not able to have the basic necessities of life. It forces that particular parent to tell his or her son or his brother in order to embark on the illegal journey. Oh yes, the person has to do so, because he is not earning what would make him to live a better life. And then we have seen several people who've gone to Europe, who've gone to other countries. They have built mansions. They've provided vehicles to their parents. And you are here without even a bicycle. What do? You encourage your children, you encourage your brothers in order to embark on the illegal journey. My constituency.
Thank you, honorable member. Your time is up.
Thank you.
We may now listen to honorable member for Opanyumi.
Thank you very much, honorable speaker, for giving me the floor. I believe the topic at hand is very important, which talks about youths on irregular migration. Yes, you understand the young people constitute about 60% of the Gambian population, and I believe their issues should not be put in the briefcase. Similarly, the beauty of the garden lies in the variety of flower. Similarly, for a state to develop and realize her set goal, the young people need to be put in the forefront. But if our young people are not given that opportunity, what do you expect? They must embark on this perilous journey. Journeying through the statistic, you realize that thousands of Gambian youth are put to rest in the Sahara Desert. Some are in castration centers. Some are enduring some social abnormalities. And a survey was done in 2018, and it cited that 90% of the Gambians who are migrating from the country to Europe or other countries as a result of unemployment problem. And now I believe the government knows what is the problem. Our stakeholders know what is the problem. Let them create job opportunities for the young people. But we're not saying that let them create job opportunities which are as good as no good job opportunities, because of some of the jobs that they're going to create, they are not, because if you are working, you are not paid, good salary or good wages, do you think you are going to stay in that job? That's why we're seeing teachers moving, soldiers and other civil servants leaving the system and migrating to Europe. It is risky because of it's either Barcelona or Barca. But you choose that perilous journey because of you cannot endure the challenges that you are facing in the society. I'm not saying Gambians are not moving as a result of political reasons, but most of the time Gambians migrate as a result of either social or economic factor. A glaring example I will relate is 2019, the boat tragedy in Bara, where more than 200 young people from North Bank region embarked on this perilous journey to Europe. they embark on this journey for them to be able to change the status quo or to change the predicament because of the social life they are enduring is really, difficult. And as a result, they believe the only way to address this problem is to embark on this perilous journey. So these young people embark on this perilous journey, and 90% of these young people die in the sea. The survivors, when they came, they were interviewed. Most of them said they embark on this journey because of they want to find greener pasture. They are at home with their parents. They cannot provide what is needed. And they are mature enough to provide for the family, but they are not having those job opportunities to help them to do that. So as a result, they have to force themselves through this journey. This is difficult. Whether we are informed or not, we have young Gambians in Libya and other North African countries incarcerated, enduring difficulties, enduring hardships. Despite we have some who enter Europe and they're helping their families with some remittances. But I believe a one family loss, a one life loss cannot be compared with billions of dollars. I believe that one life could have been very important for the country, could have provide everything for this country. So I believe as a country, as stakeholders, as a government, let us know the problem. And we know that if we are serious about keeping or solving the problem of irregular migration, particularly, let us provide job opportunities. Not only low-key jobs where they are not going to be paid. Let them be well paid and let them stay and develop this country. We need the human resources because we are seriously affected with brain drain. Young Gambians who would have been very instrumental in our agricultural sectors, in the health sector, educational sector, are embarking on this perilous journey. Are we serious as a country to develop? And we cannot develop, through, bringing, people from other countries. Now, we the Gambians have to develop this country. I don't know how it is going to be done, but it can be done. Because it is done in other countries. We have seen Rwanda is a good example. 1994, there was a genocide. But right now, when you're quoting or give an example of, developing countries in Africa, you have to at least mention Rwanda because they know what they want and they are going for it. So as a country, let us know what we want and we go for it. And the youth population need to stay and develop this country.
Honorable Member, your time is up. Thank you very much. At this juncture, honorable members of this August Parliament, I want to invoke clause 13, sub 1 of the standing orders, which indicates that the Speaker may at any time suspend a sitting or adjourn the House to suspend the sitting for a break to give the opportunity to honorable members to pray and do other things, and this House shall reconverge for sittings to resume at 2:45 sharp.